Hey guys. This is part 8 of What If Naruto was Madara's grandson. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 51-2 New Lights. Previously. Izanagi now thought to herself, using the remains of her chakra and the last of her eyes. The wound on her chest healed and her eyes closed from chakra exhaustion. She slowly drifted away, carried away by the current. She didn't know if she would even survive, but she felt she had to try. Moments earlier, Itachi was hoping from tree branch. He was returning from Konoha due to his talk with Naruto a couple days ago. Itachi was invisible, concealed by the shadows of the night. With his body healed and back to perfect condition, he could use his full speed. Itachi placed a foot on a tree branch and launched himself forward at the top of his speed. He narrowed his eyes to block the air from drying up his eyes. He looked right only to spot a massive column of black smoke rising on the horizon. Since he had time, Itachi decided to investigate. It was night, and a fire in the middle of the night would definitely stick out, especially one of this magnitude. Valley of the End. What the hell happened here? Itachi mumbled to himself in disbelief. The valley was completely ruined. The two statues of both Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara were now nothing more than broken rock on the ground. But what caught Itachi's attention was the massive forest that stood blazing in the middle of the valley. Gigantic trees, big as the statues themselves, were burning with white-hot flames. Chunks of trees snapped, hitting the water with large splash sounds. Itachi's activated his Sharingan only to see chakra residue in the air. There was a battle here, and it wasn't long ago. Itachi jumped down from the valley and into the water, keeping his distance from the fire raging on. Smack! Itachi kicked something accidentally and looked down. An orange mask with a swirl pattern revolving around the right eye socket. Tobi's mask, Itachi stated to himself as he bent down and picked the mask, surveying his surroundings for the possibility of finding the masked man's identity. Itachi kept walking forward, analyzing the state of the valley. It had to have been a great battle for the valley to be left in such state. He looked down at the river and noticed a small trail of blood flowing downwards with the river. Anyone else would miss it as it was so small, but not the Sharingan. Itachi hopped into the water and began walking down the river, following the current and the blood's trail. Itachi walked a few miles until he arrived near a small clearing where the river's flow had decreased significantly. Itachi looked around until his eyes landed on a body lying down by the shore. Itachi walked towards the body. Just from the distance he could tell that this person would most likely be dead. The clothes were completely torn, he could see burn marks on her arms and legs, and bleeding cuts all over the remaining of the body. As Itachi was closing in, he took time to note her clothes. The body had an attire consisting of a dark blue top with black gloves, black boots, black shorts, but what really caught his eyes was the Uchiha clan symbol on her back. A/N, check profile for image. An Uchiha? Itachi asked to himself in disbelief as he suddenly rushed the body. He arrived near the body and bent down, placing 2 fingers on her neck. She's alive! Itachi thought as he detected a very faint pulse. He gently turned her around and his eyes widened at the person lying down right in front of him. Now, Itachi breathed out. Naruto had told him that the Uchiha clan was still alive, but it was one hell of a coincidence for him to simply stumble upon one Uchiha just days after his talk with Naruto. Itachi moved her body further into the land and laid her on the ground, facing up. Itachi placed his fingers on the middle of her chest, right above her heart, and released a small electric discharge. It was a technique taught to every single shinobi in the Corps and one of the basic medical ninjutsu. A small static shock directly into the heart to jumpstart a body if need be. Nao's body gave a small jerk as she started stirring. Itachi watched as Nao slowly opened his eyes only for a hollow white to appear instead of the black color he remembered. Did she sacrifice her eyes? Itachi mused in thought as he heard some gurgling sound coming from Nao. Who? Nao said as she started coughing. Are you? Nao managed to get out only to hear a small chuckle. What mess did you get yourself into this time? Nao-chan. Itachi replied, smiling down at his former comrade. There was quite a story behind these two. Nao's eyes widened when she recognized the voice. She slowly turned towards the voice but saw nothing but darkness. Itachi-kun, Nao said slowly, chuckling until she began coughing again. Itachi moved now so that she laid perfectly flat on the ground. Don't worry, I will take care of you, Itachi said, smiling, not that Nao could see it. Itachi went towards his pocket and removed a single three-pronged kunai. Without a moment hesitation, he stabbed it on the ground, disappearing in a yellow flash with Nao in tow. Moments earlier, Senju compound. I finally did it! Naruto yelled in joy of success. Naruto quickly sealed everything and swirled towards the Senju compound. Hinata, Hashirama, Tobirama, Mito, Minato, Kushina and Gaara. All of you in the kitchen in 5 minutes, Naruto yelled as he also ran towards the kitchen to set up everything. One by one everyone walked towards the kitchen, although it weren't just the ones Naruto called, as everyone was curious what the ruckus was all about. Dragons, Naruto said, getting the attention of his group. Front and center, Naruto said, and watched as the members of the group stepped forward. I have a gift for all of you, Naruto said, grinning as he took out 8 scrolls and tossed one to each member of the group, keeping one for himself. What's this? Minato asked, curious about this gift. Unseal it and you shall see, Naruto replied, and Minato shrugged. Minato kneeled on the ground and unwrapped his scroll. Kai, release, Minato said as he slammed his hand on the scroll. Once the cloud of smoke had dissipated, on the ground laid a single egg. Although this wasn't some ordinary chicken egg. This eggshell was completely white, and it was slightly bigger than a football. At least the omelet will be enough for all of us, Jiraiya joked, and everyone laughed until he saw the look of horror in Naruto. You gave us a big egg, Minato said, disgruntled. He was hoping for something a bit more, well, more for such a big fuss. While it is an egg, it's so much more than that, Naruto cryptically said, and watched as Minato glared at him. Just channel chakra into the egg and think of yellow. It will take a considerable amount, so don't worry, Naruto explained, and Minato did just that. Minato placed his right hand on top of the egg and concentrated. Minato's hand started glowing blue, and everyone watched with anticipation what would come from all of this. 5 minutes later, and Minato was already starting to sweat from all the chakra the damn thing was eating. Suddenly the egg stopped absorbing chakra and Minato retracted his hand, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Now what? Minato asked towards Naruto. He did as Naruto said, but nothing was happening. Give it a few moments, Naruto said, and Minato nodded, sitting down. How could such small thing almost empty him of his reserves? He had a lot of chakra, not much as Naruto, but enough to put some Kages to shame. As Minato raised his head from being tired of waiting, the egg started shaking, breaking everyone from their boredom. Everyone watched as the egg started shaking even more, and clawing sounds could be heard coming from inside the egg. A strange yellow pattern started forming around the egg's shell, making everyone focus all their attention of said egg. Here he comes, Naruto said, and everyone's breathing hitched as a piece of the egg's shell flew away and what seemed to be an yellow claw stepped out. The egg shook once more and suddenly exploded, sending pieces of his shell flying everywhere. Everyone covered their face so they didn't get hit with the shrapnel. Once they uncovered their faces, everyone's jaw dropped at the creature standing in the middle of the kitchen. He resembled some form of reptile, like lizards and, in some relation, snakes themselves. This creature's body was completely covered in yellowish shiny scales, with 4 legs and long tail. The creature had a long snout, and an impressive jaw line filled the razor-sharp teeth. He had eyes yellow as well, with a black vertical slit like those of snake, but what really stood out was a pair of wings that protruded from his back. Is that what I think it is? Jiraiya yelled, pointing towards the creature in the middle of the room, who seemed to react to his outburst, and gave him a toothy grin showing his razor-sharp teeth and an impressive pair of fangs. A dragon, alive and in the flesh, Naruto said, pointing towards the dragon, who seemed to get what was happening and simply rose to stand on 2 legs and spread his wings. And is your partner from now and until the day you die, Naruto said, pointing towards Minato, who had a shocked face. But, Minato tried to argue, but Naruto quickly shut him down. No buts. He is key to your chakra and will only answer to you. He isn't your slave or pet, he's your partner from now on, so treat him with respect, Naruto said, and the dragon jumped into the air and landed on Minato's shoulders. He coiled around his neck until he began to lick Minato's cheek. I guess he's alright, Minato said, scratching the head of the dragon and making Naruto nod. His name is Yellow. A fitting name for the mighty Kiroi Senko, Yellow Flash, wouldn't you say? Naruto snickered and watched as the dragon growled slowly before laying his head down to probably sleep. I thought that dragons didn't exist, Temari stated, looking at Yellow. They do now. They will take time to grow, Naruto explained. How big will they get? Tsunade asked, pausing when she remembered the legends. Big as the bijou, Naruto simply replied as he crouched and unsealed his own egg. Everyone paled at the thought of having 8 dragons, the size of mountains, just simply strolling around Konoha. They were broken from their thoughts when they heard another egg crack and they turned around to see Hinata scratching the chin of a purple dragon. Growl. Tsunade turned her head again, this time towards Naruto, who was also petting a big silver dragon. Tsunade and the rest of the Senju compound, with the exception of the 8 dragons of the leaf, paled when they had cracks all over the place. Not even 5 minutes later there were 8 dragons on the kitchen running all over the place, like some kids on a sugar rush. Oh man, I want one too, Kankuro said as he kneeled in front of Naruto. No can do. Limited edition only. Naruto chuckled. Please, Kankuro whined. Please, Silver mocked from the ceiling. Everyone looked up to see Silver with his claws dug onto the ceiling. Oh, mine can already talk, Naruto said with sparkles on his eyes. And it looks like he got your traits, personality-wise, Hinata said as she watched the Silver mock poor Kankuro. Things you should know about your partners. They have chakra just like you and they bear the same affinities you have so they can work properly with you in combat, Naruto explained and everyone nodded. Another thing. Should any of them die you will live on, but if you die, so will your dragons, Naruto said in a serious voice. The dragon were their partners and were bounded to them by life. Where the hell are they going to live? Tsunade yelled, making everyone stare at her. The Senjuness is strong in that one, Mito thought to herself, sighing. Do you think we can set them up in the summon world? Tobirama asked, making everyone ponder. Hey Fox, Naruto thought to himself. Yeah, Kurama replied as he yawned and stretched, popping a few joints. Is the summon realm all occupied? Naruto asked, making Kurama raise an eyebrow at his question. Why do you ask? Kurama asked, surprised by the question. Naruto simply looked to the ceiling. What the hell are dragons doing here? Kurama yelled. I created them. I read a book about reptiles and another one from Legends, Naruto replied, grinning and making Kurama shake his head his disbelief. There are a few lands unoccupied that they can use without much trouble, Kurama answered, and Naruto proceeded to forward the information to Tobirama, who was already devising a small seal in the form of a tattoo to summon their partners into battle should they need them. We got company, Naruto said as he back-flipped into the middle of the room and slammed his hand on the ground. In a flash of yellow, Itachi and now were standing in the middle of the room. I thought you were supposed to come to me, Itachi said as he found himself on the Senju compound. I may trust you, Itachi, but not far enough to jump towards you and into a possible ambush, Naruto replied. What the? Itachi said out loud when he came face to face with 8 dragons who were standing just inches away from his face, staring at him. His Sharingan flared to life, and that was until he noticed the rest of the room. Senju Hashirama, Senju Tobirama, Namikaze Minato, Uzumaki Mito and Senju Kushina. Bibububub. Itachi tried to come out with the right words, but his brain seemed unable to process the events. At least he didn't faint like Tsunade and Hiruzen had to back in the day. What can I do for you, Itachi? Naruto asked, breaking Itachi's line of thought. Itachi looked away from the Senju brothers and back into Nao, who was breathing harshly. She won't last much longer. I can feel her life force slipping away, Naruto said as he took a good look at the Uchiha in Itachi's arms. I need your help once again. I need you to heal her, Itachi stoically said. Bah, a dead Uchiha is a good one, Tobirama simply replied, making Itachi frown. What did I tell you about having prejudice about the Uchihas? Hashirama grumbled. Besides, it's Naruto's choice if he wants to heal her or not, Hashirama explained, and Tobirama scoffed, but nodded nonetheless. Why should I heal her? Naruto asked towards Itachi, who remained silent and with his head down. She has been working for Tobi all along. She blew up a hospital in Kiri and almost killed Hinata-chan, Naruto explained. She is in this state for fighting Tobi. You should see the state of the Valley of the End. Everything was destroyed, even Madara's and his statue, Itachi said, motioning to Hashirama. They destroyed my gorgeous statue, Hashirama said as he hung his head. What do you think, Kurama? Naruto asked towards his partner. It's your choice, Naruto, Kurama replied seriously, wondering what Naruto would do. Even so, one good deed doesn't atone for a lifetime of wrongs, Naruto said. Don't make me beg, Itachi said in a low voice, making Naruto's eyes widen. He was willing to actually beg for Naruto to save her. Why would you lower yourself to that extent just to save her? Naruto asked, curious, but Itachi remained silent. You love her? After all this time? Naruto asked like it was the most obvious thing on the world, and Itachi just nodded. Always, Itachi answered. 1. She was with me from the very beginning. We were born a single month apart. We were childhood friends and rivals at the same time. We graduated from the academy together, got into the same team, took the Chunin exams together. I fell for her because she treated me for the person I was. To her, I wasn't the son of the head of the Uchiha clan or the prodigy of the Uchiha clan. To her I was just Itachi. Itachi sadly said, and Naruto remained silent. I guess we are more alike than I thought. Naruto replied, chuckling and making Itachi look at him funny. I too fell for Hinata-chan because she was with me from the beginning, and because not matter what the village said, she never treated me as the demon or Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. To her I always was just Naruto. Besides, there was nothing I wouldn't do for her. Naruto explained and started walking forward until he was near Itachi, who held Nao's head on his lap. Naruto placed 2 fingers on Nao's forehead. Naruto took a deep breath and opened his eyes to display his silver eyes with concentric rings around the pupil. Naruto's fingers started glowing, and Itachi watched as Nao's breathing became more stable. Her bones were reset to their proper locations, and even the cuts on her skin just sizzled away. Naruto got up and stepped back as Nao started stirring. Itachi-kun, I'm feeling much better. Where are we? Nao asked as she slowly rose to a sitting position. Itachi-kun, is it? Naruto thought to himself, chuckling. He knew deep down that he had made the right choice. He's almost ready to meet him. Kurama chuckled to himself before going back to sleep. We are in Konoha, more specifically in the Senju compound. Itachi replied and watched as Nao suddenly stiffened and jumped to her feet. She opened her eyes, but only darkness greeted her. What happened to your eyes? Hinata asked, curious about the hollow white. I know that voice. Nao said, looking towards Hinata direction. You are that Hyuga I fought in Kiri. Nao said, getting into a defensive stance. She was in enemy territory. It's Senju now. Naruto-kun has asked me to marry him. Hinata said, but Nao didn't seem much concerned about that. Relax, Nao-chan. Itachi said, placing a hand on her shoulder and making her instantly relax. You are among friends now. Itachi said, and Nao huffed. Hold still, Naruto said towards Nao as he approached her and put a finger in each eye, above her eyelid. Relax, Naruto said, but Nao remained stiff as a board. Is he going to take my eyes? Nao thought, fearful. She was in the wolf's den and blind to make it worse. Naraka path, Naruto said, and Nao was shocked when she heard Naruto say the exactly same words that Nagato had used to heal her eye when she fought Hinata back in Kiri. Open your eyes, Naruto said, and Nao slowly complied. Her eyes' lids slowly rose and she was greeted with the face of Senju Naruto, but his eyes were not the Sharingan, they were the Rinnegan, glowing at full power. You have the Rinnegan, Nao muttered out loud. No thank you, no nothing, just you have the Rinnegan. I'm hurt, Naruto joked, making Nao smile slightly, easing the ambient. That's Naruto right there. All serious 1 second and joking around the next. Kushina thought, smiling. Of course, Nao said, slapping her forehead. You are both Uchiha and Senju. It's obvious that you would have the Rinnegan. I wonder how Fugaku still hasn't thought of that yet, Nao muttered out loud. So it's true, Itachi sadly replied, and making Nao turn around. Everyone is still alive? Itachi asked, and Nao nodded. Who is Tobi? Naruto asked, turning Nao around to look at him. Nao gulped as she stared at Naruto's Sharingan, and knew that lying probably would be a bad idea. Uchiha Fugaku, Nao replied, squirming under Naruto's gaze. Wasn't he the head of the Uchiha clan? Naruto asked, and everyone nodded. Another simple Uchiha with delusions of grandeur, Tobirama grumbled. I knew I recognized his chakra from somewhere when he attacked with the Kyuubi 17 years ago. Minato replied, and for the first time Nao looked around to see just who exactly was with her. Wayandame-sama, Nao said in shock, and gulped when she saw who stood by his side. Senju Hashirama and his brother Senju Tobirama, Uzumaki Mito and Senju Kushina. How? Nao asked towards Naruto, who smirked. You should know the power of the Rinnegan extends beyond life and death, Naruto simply replied. Of course, Nao said, smacking her head again. You are the perfect vessel for the Rinnegan. The Uchiha and Senju DNA in perfect balance. It figures that you could use it without any adversities, unlike Nagato, Now said. Now, why don't you tell us everything you know about the Uchiha clan and the Akatsuki? Naruto asked, and yet again now felt that it wasn't a question she could refuse. 1 hour later. That's very useful information. Thank you now. Naruto replied and now nodded before turning towards Itachi. What now? Now asked, and Itachi looked at Naruto. Now turned around to look towards Naruto as well. Smack! Itachi gave now a chop to the neck, making her fall forward. Itachi caught her before she fell and slowly lowered her to the ground. The hell, Itachi? Naruto asked as he watched him knock now unconscious. I'm going after my brother. Can you make me a promise? Itachi asked, looking at Naruto and making sure he understood the seriousness in his voice. If I don't make it back. Itachi trailed off as Naruto understood what he meant. We will take care of her like family. You have my word, Itachi. Naruto replied, and Itachi nodded before shining away, heading towards the Uchiha hideout where he would meet with Sasuke and decided his fate. So he was Itachi, Tobirama said, scratching his chin. I guess he wasn't so bad for an Uchiha. Tobirama replied, making everyone's sweat drop. Was Uchiha all that he thought about? Ero-sen, you know what to do? Naruto asked, and Jiraiya nodded. I will contact my spies, Jiraiya replied, and everyone went back towards their dragons. Few days later, Uchiha hideout. If you wish to kill me, resent me, hate me, and survive in obscurity. Sasuke remembered as he approached the Uchiha hideout where Zetsu had told him Itachi was. Run, keep running and cling to life. Then one day, come before me with the same eyes I possess. Sasuke thought as his Manjikyu flared and he continued his path. So you have come, Itachi said with his eyes closed. Itachi was sitting in some kind of throne and was looking straight towards Sasuke, who stood in his front. Sasuke was wearing the traditional Uchiha clan outfit, dark blue vest with black pants. He had a blue belt in which he had a straight single-edged sword strapped into. On the back of his vest he bore the Uchiha fan. That Sharingan, Itachi said as he started to open his eyes. How much can you see? Itachi asked as his eyes fully opened to reveal blood-red eyes with 3 black tomos. How much I can see, you ask? Sasuke rhetorically asked as he stopped walking, facing Itachi. With these eyes I see your death, Itachi. Sasuke replied, looking Itachi dead in the eyes. My death, huh? Itachi asked out loud. You are still arrogant, Sasuke. You shouldn't underestimate your opponent, Itachi advised as he leaned back, closing his eyes. Then make it happen, Itachi said as he disappeared, and in a blur, he was beside Sasuke with a kunai drawn. Sasuke followed his movement with his Sharingan, and quickly turned. Sasuke placed a hand on his sword handle and brought his blade to parry Itachi's kunai. Both weapons clashed with a clang sound as both fighters struggled for victory. Sasuke broke the struggle and jumped back, going through hand seals. Katon, Gakakyu no Jutsu, great fireball technique, Sasuke said as he unleashed a massive fireball lighting up the room. Itachi bent slightly as he pulled several shuriken from his sleeves and hurled them towards Sasuke, through the fireball. Itachi jumped to the side to avoid it. Sasuke was forced to cancel his jutsu when several shuriken came towards him. The fireball had obscured the vision of them. Sasuke's Sharingan glowed as he tracked every single shuriken and started blocking them with his sword. Not a single movement was wasted, it was like he was dancing. When Sasuke had finished dodging every single shuriken, Itachi was suddenly upon his face and kicked him in the stomach, sending Sasuke flying into the wall. Sasuke crashed into the wall and stumbled to the ground as he began coughing. Sasuke rose his head to look for Itachi, only for him to be punched and pinned into the wall by the same person he was looking for. This is the end, Itachi said as he brought his fingers towards Sasuke's eyes. Your light is mine, Itachi said as ripped out one of Sasuke's eyes, making him yell in pain and clutch to his now empty eye socket. The curse seal on Sasuke's shoulder began activating. His body gained a brownish color, and some kind of wings sprouted from his back. Suddenly the whole world started cracking, like some mirror that had just been broken. All the damage to the room simply disappeared as both Sasuke and Itachi were standing in the same position as before it all began. It useless, Itachi, Sasuke said, laughing. I am not a little kid anymore. My eyes can easily see through your genjutsu, Sasuke stated as his Sharingan glowed. You really are confident, Itachi said, getting up from his throne. But for now, I will take your word for it, Itachi said until he looked towards Sasuke's Sharingan. Foolish little brother, I told to come to me only when you had gained eyes like mine, Itachi replied, walking down the stairs until he stood but a few feet away from Sasuke. And I do, Sasuke said, chuckling darkly as his Sharingan started spinning. I killed the only person I ever cared for just for these eyes, Itachi, and with them, I will kill you for betraying our family, Sasuke said as his Sharingan turned into his Manjikyu. His eyes had 3 intersecting ellipses that resemble an atom model. Foolish little brother, Itachi said as his own Sharingan started spinning and becoming his Manjikyu Sharingan, a 3-sided pinwheel. The problem was that Itachi's eyes didn't stop spinning, even after reaching the Manjikyu stage. Itachi's Manjikyu kept spinning, and Sasuke watched in horror as his brother's eyes started changing into an unknown pattern. With one large chakra pulse, Itachi's eyes stopped spinning and Sasuke was gawking at the new pattern. Itachi's Sharingan had 3 intersecting ellipses and above that, a 3-sided pinwheel. It was like a cross-match between Sasuke's and Itachi's own Manjikyu. A/N, Itachi's Eternal is Sasuke's from canon. How? Sasuke asked fearfully as he involuntarily took a step back. How can you have the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan? Sasuke asked shakily. How you ask? Itachi rhetorically asked, sighing. It was a gift from Naruto, Itachi simply replied, making Sasuke's eyes widen in disbelief. You swapped eyes with him? Sasuke asked in shock. It doesn't matter what I did, Sasuke. I'm righting my wrongs as of now, Itachi as his Eternal started glowing. Cuckoo, do you mind if I join the party? Both Sasuke and Itachi were surprised by this new voice as either of them felt another chakra signature nearby. Both of them turned to the location of the new voice only to find Orochimaru of all people, leaning by the door frame and hungrily looking at both Uchihas. Sharingan, Sasuke said as he and Itachi took notice of Orochimaru's eyes. They were blood red with 3 black tomos spinning around the pupil. How do you have the Sharingan? Sasuke asked, gritting his teeth, but was met with mocking laughter. Answer me, snake! Sasuke yelled, but Orochimaru only chuckled. Amaterasu, Sasuke said as Orochimaru exploded in black flames. Still with the hot temper, I see. Sasuke heard and turned around to see another Orochimaru sitting in the throne. Sasuke looked back to the black flames only to find nothing but mud on the ground. What is it you came for, Orochimaru? Itachi stoically asked. He didn't care how Orochimaru got the Sharingan as long as he didn't interfere with his plans. Nothing much, Orochimaru said as he began walking towards both Uchihas, licking his lips in anticipation. I've come for my new light. Orochimaru chuckled until he took notice to Itachi's new eyes. Oh, you already have it, Orochimaru said, surprised by Itachi bewielding the Eternal. Enough, Sasuke roared, making Itachi and Orochimaru turn towards him. I will kill you both for disrespecting the Uchiha clan. Sasuke snarled as his began going through hand seals. Katan, Goryuken no Jutsu, Great Dragon Fire Technique, Sasuke said, and he unleashed several dragon-shaped fireballs towards their enemies. Orochimaru's eyes started spinning as he copied the jutsu, and easily countered Sasuke with an equally powerful jutsu. So this is the Sharingan, amazing. Orochimaru chuckled to himself when he felt the Sharingan automatically copy the jutsu. Orochimaru made a single tiger seal and looked straight towards Sasuke. Juinjutsu, Curse Seal Techniques, activate, Orochimaru said, and Sasuke was immediately on the ground screaming in pain and clutching to his neck. Sasuke, Itachi said as he suddenly dashed towards Orochimaru, who smirked and waited for him. Orochimaru easily predicted Itachi's punch and tilted his head to the side, catching Itachi in an arm lock. A snake appeared behind Orochimaru and quickly bit on Itachi's neck. Itachi dispersed in a murder of crows. The crows started circling Orochimaru as they turned into shurikens, heading straight for Orochimaru from all directions. Orochimaru jumped high into the air, attaching himself to the ceiling. In a flash, Sasuke was upon Orochimaru with his hand sparkling. Chidori, Sasuke yelled as he thrust his hand forward. Sasuke's hand went right through Orochimaru's heart, only for him to dispel into several snakes who fell to the ground. Tisk, Sasuke scoffed as he looked down to find Orochimaru's and Itachi's location. Amaterasu, Orochimaru said as black flames appeared in the ground in front of him. Futon de Tapa, great breakthrough, Orochimaru said, pumping his lungs with chakra and releasing a gust of wind that carried the black flames across the room. Orochimaru launched his jutsu and waited for the results. However, he didn't need to wait much as 2 colors rose in the background. Both Sasuke and Itachi were using their own Susanoo to block the black flames. Sasuke's Susanoo as deep purple and wielded a bow and arrow. Itachi's Susanoo was strong orange, wielding a shield and a saber. He has the Manjikyu as well, both Sasuke and Itachi thought. Yasaka no Magatama, Yasaka beads, Itachi said as another pair of arms sprouted from his Susanoo and began preparing ethereal orange beads to throw. Sasuke's Susanoo formed an arrow. Both attacks were launched at incredible speed towards Orochimaru, who jumped into the ceiling, breaking the stone and escaping the room. The room exploded as the attacks collided with the walls. Both Susanoos dropped as Itachi and Sasuke jumped outside of the room, following Orochimaru. As Itachi and Sasuke appeared on the roof, Orochimaru flexed his arms forwards as snakes came from his sleeves and easily entangled both brothers. Itachi dispelled into a murder of crows and Sasuke summoned his Susanoo to break free. "You've grown strong, Sasuke," Itachi said, looking at his brother, who scoffed and simply jumped to the side as the three warriors stood equal lengths from each other. "Katan, Gakakyu no Jutsu, great fireball technique," all three warriors said at the same time. Three fireballs clashed in the middle as all three shinobi struggled for the upper hand. Sasuke closed his right in concentration before opening it and unleashing black flames to consume the existing fire. As the black flames disappeared, Sasuke's hand sparkled as he slammed it on the ground. "Chidori Nagashi," Sasuke said as streak of lightning left in his hand, heading towards Itachi and Orochimaru. Both warriors jumped back to gain some distance from Sasuke, who smirked. Sasuke looked up towards the sky and began laughing as thunders could be heard and heavy rain started falling. The heated air from all the fire jutsus and black flames had created a storm. The gathering of clouds had brought what Sasuke wanted, lightning. Sasuke's hand sparkled as he sent a lightning beam towards the sky, making light up the clearing. "This is bad," Orochimaru said to himself, as he knew very well what was coming. So he managed to recreate Naruto's Kirin Jutsu. Itachi thought to himself as his eyes started glowing and preparing for summoning his shield. "Right-on Kirin!" Sasuke yelled as he brought his hand down, and the skies roared. A blue dragon appeared in the sky. The dragon rocketed towards the ground, targeting either Itachi or Orochimaru, or even both. "Kuchios, Sunju Rashomen," Orochimaru said, slamming both hands on the ground as three massive defensive walls appeared in front of him to block Sasuke's jutsu. "Susanoo," Itachi said as the dragon connected with the top of the building, and in a flash of blue, the building exploded, blasting chunks of rock everywhere and leveling the battlegrounds to nothing but rubble. As the smoke started clearing, Sasuke jumped down to ground level, taking deep breaths due to chakra usage. Sasuke scowled as he took notice that Itachi had summoned his Susanoo to defend himself, rendering his lightning jutsu useless. "You d-damn brat!" Orochimaru snarled as he dug himself out of the rubble. The walls he had summoned were enough to protect him from the initial blast, but not from the secondary explosion. Orochimaru's clothes were ripped apart, and he was bleeding from several places. "I see you managed to copy my jutsu after all." All three warriors standing on the clearing slowly turned their heads when they heard this new voice. The new person had long blonde, waist-length, spiky hair with fangs that framed his face and partially covered his right eye. He also had three distinctive whiskers marks on each cheek. His blonde hair swayed with the wind, giving him a more menacing look. "Just great, the Kyuubi is here," Orochimaru thought to himself, gritting his teeth. He had come for Sasuke's or Itachi's eyes, but he had never expected for Sasuke to have grown this much, and now Naruto had joined the picture. "Long time no see, Naruto." Sasuke chuckled and Naruto took in the person who had addressed him. Blood-red eyes, check. Arrogant and general aura of superiority, check. Duck-butt-shaped hair, check. Emo and brooding, check. That's Sasuke alright, Naruto thought to himself, analyzing Sasuke. Naruto's Sharingan left nothing unchecked. Medium S rank, Naruto concluded from his observations. Sasuke had grown stronger than he had expected. "Care to explain to me why you knocked me out?" Now asked sweetly towards Itachi, who gulped as he dropped his Susanoo. "What the hell are you doing with the Senju now?" Sasuke asked towards Now. "Fugaku tried to kill me, so I joined their side," Now said, pointing towards Itachi and Naruto. "Zetsu," Naruto called out of nowhere and got confused faces from everyone, that is, until Zetsu showed up. "You called Naruto-sama?" the white Zetsu asked as he rose from the ground, besides Naruto. Everyone's jaw dropped when they heard the way Zetsu had addressed Naruto of all people. "You are to tell nothing to Fugaku of what occurred in here, are we understood?" Naruto asked, and Zetsu nodded. "Of you go then," Naruto said, and Zetsu sank back into the ground. Naruto, Itachi called out, getting his attention. What is she doing here? You gave me your word, Itachi said, narrowing his eyes. I promised that I would take care of her, not that I would stop her from chasing you, Naruto said, shrugging his shoulders, making Itachi's eyes twitch. Both of you leave. This is my problem to solve, Itachi replied as his Susanoo flared to life once again, making Sasuke and Orochimaru prepare themselves. It's my problem too. I made the wrong choice back then and I intend to fix it right now alongside you. Now Huftas walked and stood side by side with Itachi. Shall we do this like the old days? Now asked, smirking and making Itachi chuckle. Itachi is laughing, Sasuke thought in disbelief as he looked towards his older brother. Back in the day, a simple smile was the best he could get from him. Itachi dropped his Susanoo as his eyes reverted back to the standard Sharingan. Now grinned as she stood side by side with Itachi, just like the old days. Both Uchihas had their normal Sharingan blazing at full power and looking towards Sasuke and Orochimaru. Like the old days? Itachi asked, turning to Nao, who grinned. Like the old days, Nao replied, nodding her head as both Uchihas disappeared from view. I guess I'll stick around and watch, Naruto muttered to himself as he jumped to safety and simply observed the battle from afar. Orochimaru shed his skin to heal any damage he had suffered from Sasuke's right ninjutsu. He looked around as his Sharingan tracked both Itachi and Nao, but, even then, they were nothing but blurs. He had yet to grow accustomed to his eyes. That was the reason as to why he could only use the Amaterasu flames as of now. Orochimaru's eyes shifted to his left as he looked towards Naruto, who was calmly sighting on the nearby walls, observing with battle with calculating eyes. Orochimaru heard Naruto say he would only watch, but shinobi aren't known for their honor. Orochimaru blinked as Nao appeared right next to him. Masai no Ken, fire punch. Nao cocked her fist back and slammed it into Orochimaru's stomach. He buckled in pain just as Nao kicked him away, sending him sailing through the air. Katan, Ryuka no Jutsu, fire dragon technique, Itachi said, unleashing a torrent of fire towards the flying Orochimaru, engulfing him in flames. Orochimaru tumbled into the ground, consumed by flames. I got you! Sasuke yelled as he took opportunity of Itachi's jutsu. Sasuke appeared behind Itachi with his sword drawn, ready to impale his older brother. Clang! Sasuke's eyes widened when his sword was blocked by Nao's. She smirked and held her grip as Sasuke pushed forward, in a battle of strength. Itachi burst into crows as both Nao and Sasuke disengaged and jumped apart. Enough! Orochimaru yelled as he dropped to the ground and opened his mouth. Madara no Jin, formation of 10,000 snakes, Orochimaru said as countless snakes started emerging from his mouth. Thousands upon thousands of snakes that rose high into the sky. All of them opened their mouths to reveal a sword at the tip. Susanoo, Itachi and Nao both said as two towering ethereal samurais appeared. Their chakras spiked as sabers appeared in their arms and they began slicing the snakes into nothing. Amaterasu, both Uchihas said as a gigantic wave of black flames rained down on Orochimaru's attack. The Susanoos disappeared as everyone looked for Orochimaru. The snakes had all been disintegrated. Chidori Iso, Chidori laser spear. Out of nowhere a lighting blade was shot from Sasuke's wrist, heading straight towards Nao. Itachi bumped Nao out of the way and got pierced right through his shoulder. Bastard! Nao snarled as she ran towards Sasuke. Itachi stumbled to the ground as he clutched to his bleeding shoulder. I've been waiting for this opportunity. Orochimaru chuckled darkly as he rose from the ground in front of Itachi. Tsukuyami, Orochimaru gasped as Itachi locked eyes with him, placing Orochimaru in his strongest genjutsu. Tsukuyami whirled the world around Orochimaru shimmered out of existence, and was replaced by a sea of red and a black sun. Orochimaru found himself in a new world, with Itachi standing right in front of him. This again, Orochimaru chuckled at Itachi's pathetic attempt of stopping him. This genjutsu no longer works against me, Orochimaru said. Then break it, Itachi simply replied. Kai, Orochimaru said as he flared his chakra, but nothing happened. He flared his chakra once again, but the illusion didn't even waver. He took a step back when he noticed Itachi calmly walking towards him with his eternal spinning. Even if you now possess the Manjikyu Sharingan, you shouldn't underestimate the power of an eternal. If you think that all it does is preventing blindness, then you are mistaken, Itachi explained, still walking towards Orochimaru, who was suddenly strapped into a cross. The eternal Manjikyu has granted me one final power. Itachi said, smiling, while Orochimaru just stared in horror as several blades rose from the ground, created from nothingness. With the Eternal, my illusions can achieve their final level. With my new eyes, I can turn any injury I do to you into a very painful reality. Itachi said, smiling, and Orochimaru's eyes widened. My strongest illusion, one that can trick the brain itself into thinking that the injuries are real and have them inflicted in the physical body, the highest level of illusion one can achieve, this Orochimaru, is my Shinko Tsukuyumi, true Tsukuyumi. Itachi said as he picked up a blade. 2. There is a downside, unfortunately. Itachi said, sighing, and Orochimaru seemed somewhat relived. I can't hold the illusion for long like I could with my original Tsukuyumi, so let's not wait any longer, Itachi said as he swung his blade. Back in the real world, both Orochimaru and Itachi were frozen, looking into each other's eyes without even blinking. Suddenly, a deep gash appeared in Orochimaru's cheek, letting blood leak out freely. Just as things couldn't get any weirder, Orochimaru's right eye exploded in a cloud of blood and flesh. Interesting, Naruto thought as he watched several cuts and gashes appear on Orochimaru's body out of nowhere. Nao and Sasuke were engaged in a heated taijutsu brawl. Sasuke's Susanoo could only brace himself against the onslaught of Nao's fire taijutsu, who apparently could melt almost anything. My dance! Nao yelled as her arms burst in black flames. Kurwahano no Mai, dance of the black flame, Nao said as her Sharingan started glowing and she dashed forward, jumping to the side as a purple arrow flew by and crashed into the ground. Sasuke coughed as his chakra levels dropped, and he was forced into a single ribcage Susanoo. He had been fighting for hours and his chakra levels were running low, while Nao had arrived just moments ago and had plenty of chakra to go around. Sasuke was forced to kneel as Nao punched the Susanoo, leaving behind her black flames as they began to eat away his shield. Sasuke's Sharingan was glowing as he frantically searched for his opponent. Sasuke caught a blur and braced himself as Nao materialized herself in front of him and kicked him. Sasuke's Susanoo cracked as he sent flying and crashing into the ground, making a crater. Nao watched as Sasuke stumbled to get up, his Susanoo dropping and blood leaking from his mouth and other wounds on his body. Nao shifted her attention away from Sasuke and towards the origin of the scream. She looked towards Itachi as he took deep breaths to regain his breathing. Standing in front of Itachi was Orochimaru with one eye destroyed and several deep gashes all over his body. Orochimaru's right arm laid unmoving on the ground as he clutched to stop the bleeding. Nao smiled at Orochimaru's state as she approached Itachi and holstered him up by the arm. If you think this is the end of me, you are wrong, Orochimaru snarled as he vanished in the wind. Nao and Itachi turned towards Sasuke, who still remained on the ground. What now, Sasuke? Itachi asked as Sasuke lifted his head towards his adversaries to display black eyes. The Sharingan had been disabled due to lack of chakra. Sasuke screamed in pain as Orochimaru appeared behind his back with a sword on his mouth. Orochimaru pierced through Sasuke's chest, right through his heart. I'm not leaving here empty-handed, Orochimaru screamed as he slithered around Sasuke and brought his hand to his eyes. Rasengan. In a flash, Naruto was beside Orochimaru, slamming his orb of silver chakra into his chest. Orochimaru was blasted away from Sasuke before he could steal his eyes. He crashed into the walls and simply slid to the ground, unmoving. Sasuke, Itachi said as he hurriedly approached his younger brother, who now laid on the ground, bleeding from his wound. Itachi kneeled beside his brother, placing his hand on top of Sasuke's chest to stem the blood flow. Itachi looked at Sasuke, who was coughing and taking quick and deep breaths. Why? Why did it have to end like this? Itachi sadly asked. I don't know. Sasuke coughed a mouthful of blood before continuing. I just wanted my family back. Cough, I hated you most of my life for killing our family. Then I learned that they were alive, you betrayed them, and I vowed to kill you, Sasuke said, looking away. I just wanted my family back. I wanted it to be like it was before the whole thing happened, cough, with the fangirls yelling at how awesome I was, with Sakura punching the blonde idiot. Sasuke said, smiling and making Naruto chuckle. And with you as my big brother, Sasuke said with a lone tear streaming down his face. Foolish little brother, Itachi said, bringing his forehead to Sasuke's. I will always be your big brother, as you will always be my little one, Itachi said, and Sasuke smiled. I'll see you around, San, Sasuke said as he let out his last breath and closed his eyes forever. In the end, he was just a lost kid. Kurama said as Naruto watched the end of one Uchiha Sasuke, a friend and an enemy. What now? Nao asked as she turned away from Sasuke and towards Itachi, who seemed to be looking towards the horizon. You know you can't return to the Akatsuki with Tobi being Fugaku, Nao said. Let's go home, Itachi, Naruto said, approaching the man and placing his hand on his shoulder, healing his wound. Your real home, Naruto said and watched as Itachi sighed but nodded. Katan, fire style, Naruto said as he kneeled down beside Sasuke and placed a hand on his chest. Sasuke's body started glowing orange until he burst into flames, and in just a few seconds, he was nothing more than dust. He's gone, Nao yelled as she ran back to Naruto and Itachi. She was after Orochimaru, but there was nothing left of where he crashed. Orochimaru is meaningless as of now. He will just crawl back to his lab and try to repair his body, Naruto said, explained, and motioned Nao to come towards him. Let's go home, Naruto said as he touched both Uchihas. May you find happiness in the afterlife, knowing you didn't find it here, Itachi thought, looking at the sky, as Naruto and both Uchihas disappeared in a flash of yellow, leaving behind the battlefield. Chapter 52: A Fated Meeting. Amigekure. Amigekure no Sato, otherwise known as the Hidden Rain Village. This is a small, yet highly industrialized hidden village. Its architecture is composed of several metallic skyscrapers with road ducts connected to them, and many power lines surrounding. As its name suggests, it rains almost constantly due to a storm above the village. All the water seemingly ends in a large lake that surrounds the village. History has always been grim for this village. Located in the middle of the 5 great nations didn't exactly help much either. While this location was excellent as it provided good trade routes that boosted the village's economy, it also had problems, and the main one was war. The Rain Village, and many other small villages, would always get caught in the battles of the Great 5 nations. Even if they chose to remain neutral, they were dragged into endless conflict until one side admit defeat. This was what had happened during the last Great Ninja Wars. The Second Great Shinobi War had crippled the village as she stood between 3 of the great nations. Konoha, led by Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage, Iwa led of Oinoki, the Sandaime Tsuchikage, and Suna, led by their Sandaime Kazekage and wielder of the Iron Sand bloodline. AIM and their leader Salamander Hanzo was forced to participate in this battle, and during it, the Sannin were born. And then came the third and last Great Ninja War. A war that managed to involve all of the 5 great nations. Out of those 5, the Fire and the Earth country clashed with unprecedented fierceness, and AIM paid the price by being the battlefield. By the end of it, the Hidden Rain Village was in total chaos. Thousands dead and even more injured. The surviving became nothing more than war refugees, surviving as the years passed by. Eventually Hanzo was removed from power by none other than Uzumaki Nagato, or as he is known, Pain. He defeated and killed Hanzo and every one of his followers, becoming the new leader of the Rain Village. Pain, the self-entitled god of peace, rules the Rain Village by an iron fist, and anyone who disobeys him gets killed. The Deva Path, or Yahiko's body being controlled by Nagato, stood in the tallest building in the village. Pain's Tower, as the building was called, from there Nagato could see to the far ends of his village, right to the gates. It made him a higher power to anyone below as he stood watching over his village, untiring and unyielding. Good job. Pain turned around from his balcony on the tower to gaze at the owner of the voice. Tobi was standing in the room wearing the usual black cloak with red clouds and, as expected, his orange mask in place, with the right Sharingan glowing behind it. Tobi, Pain said as he watched the man slowly approach him. With the Sanbai captured, we now have 5 of the 9 Bijus. Nibi from Kumo, Sanbai and Rokubi from Kiri, and the Yambi and Gobi from Iwa, Tobi said, and Pain nodded. The Akatsuki had already captured 5 of the 9 Biju. They had targeted these Jinchurikis since they had no backing from their village. Yudakata, Rashi and Han traveled alone through the elemental nations, making them easy targets for the Akatsuki members. The Sanbai was released, so Pain took him down and captured him. And Yujito had simply been ambushed in a mission and thus giving Akatsuki the Nibi. What will we do about the rest? Pain asked. The Hachibi will be harder to get since we will most likely have to go through the Reikage as well. Then we will need the Achibi, Nanabai, and finally, the Kyubi, Pain said, and Tobi nodded. Neither of those 4s will be easy to take. The Reikage will be a problem, and the Kyubi brat has grown strong, Tobi said, sighing. We already have the Kyuubi's chakra from that Fire Temple kid Sora sealed in the statue. Pain neutrally said, but Toby chuckled. And you think Naruto will just stand by and watch us take the other bijou? For reasons I don't understand, he made it his personal mission to stop us. You heard what he said at the meeting, he's going to hunt us down. Toby chuckled, but Pain remained unchanged. No one will stop my quest. Anyone that becomes an obstacle will simply be removed with extreme prejudice. Pain replied in his monotone voice until his Rinnegan began glowing as he focused on Toby. Even you, Toby. I know that you are not Uchiha Madara like you claimed, and frankly, I don't care as long you stay out of my way. Pain said, and Toby chuckled. You forget your place, Nagato. Toby warned. I was the one that taught how to properly control the Rinnegan. You should be more respectful to your betters, Toby said with his Sharingan glowing a menacing red. It doesn't matter since our interests are aligned, Toby replied, not wishing to push Pain too far from his control. For now, Toby added in thought, as he could always kill him should it be necessary and take the Rinnegan for himself. How are you planning on getting the remaining 4's bijus? Pain asked, curious about Toby's plans. Toby began, but was interrupted when he felt Zetsu approaching. Strange, Toby thought, as he hadn't requested anything of Zetsu as of late. What is it? Toby asked, annoyed since as he was interrupted. I should tell you that Sasuke is dead, Zetsu replied, and Toby's eyes widened. What? Toby yelled in outrage. What happened? Toby asked, completely bewildered. He couldn't fathom how could Sasuke had died. Explain now, Toby yelled, glaring at Zetsu, who seemed to remain calm and unaffected. He died in his battle with Itachi, Zetsu simply replied, and Toby's jaw dropped. Take it from the beginning, Toby ordered as he calmed himself down. I cannot explain any further, Zetsu said, and Toby raised an eyebrow. And why not? Toby asked, irritated. Because Naruto-sama ordered me not to, Zetsu replied, and Toby scowled. The blonde had yet again interfered with his plans. Looks like things are coming to bite you on the ass, Pain said as he bit back a chuckle. The whole persona of Toby being Madara had begun crumbling down the moment Naruto revealed his grandfather back in the Chunin exams 3 years ago. Tisk, Toby sighed in annoyance. That blonde brat is always where he shouldn't be. Where is Itachi now? Toby asked, wanting to get some answer from him. He returned to Konoha, Zetsu replied, and Toby sat down as he began to nurse his temples. This isn't going well, Toby sighed. He had everything planned out until Naruto started making a mess of everything. Even now, almost 17 years of planning to get Sasuke just washed away with him getting killed. I could bring him back if you wish, Pain offered, and Toby sat up at the realization that Nagato could bring him back, although at the cost of becoming even more fragile. Where is Sasuke's body? Toby asked towards the white plant on the ground. Reduced to ashes, Zetsu simply replied. I guess it can't be helped, Toby said as he walked into the balcony and overlooked the city. In the end he was just another pawn, Toby thought to himself. You were saying about the other bijou, Pain said as Toby refocused on their current objective. Since Itachi has betrayed us, that leaves one man shorter. I'll be heading to my hideout, and I will begin preparing the Zetsu army. We will need all the numbers we can, Toby explained. Are you heading towards the mountain's graveyard? Pain asked, but Toby shook his head in denial. No. I will be at my main hideout. The one that no one besides me and Zetsu know about, Toby said, and Pain didn't seem pleased not knowing where to find Toby. Until then, Toby said, and warped away. Few days later, Toby watched as the Gedo Mazo statue slowly funneled chakra into the white Zetsu. Several white Zetsu were being produced from the chakra generated from the bijus. It seemed like a factory, and a highly efficient one at that. Bijou had a limitless supply of chakra since, once empty, they would just refill given an appropriate waiting time. How many? Toby asked towards the original Zetsu. Toby was simply watching the events unfold with a smirk. He was literally watching the birth of his army, one that, in time, would be big enough to topple the elemental countries if need be. We have 3,000 as of now, and I estimate we can achieve 5,000 by the end of the week, Zetsu replied, and, although he couldn't see it, he knew that Toby was smiling behind that mask. Excellent, Toby happily replied. I trust they will obey only me, correct? Toby asked, and Zetsu nodded. Toby really didn't want for his army to march into the battlefield only to be told to return home by Naruto. I will be at other hideout in the meantime, Toby said and swirled away. Mountain's graveyard. Toby arrived at the base of his hideout, and simply began walking towards the entrance. He was deep in thought and giddy at the prospect of having his new army that he wasn't really paying attention to his surroundings. Toby kept walking until his foot hit something. He looked down to see that he had kicked an arm, and a bloody one at that. "What the hell?" Toby said out loud as he took in his surroundings, only for his eyes to widen in shock, disbelief, and anger. All at the same time. This hideout was the place where the Uchiha clan was living, and the very same reason why Toby chose his other hideout to build his army. All around the entrance into the hideout were bodies. Some of them were turned into stone, with shock clearly written into their faces, like they were petrified in an instant. Arms, legs, pieces that he didn't knew they belonged to human body to begin with were sprayed across the grounds. Pools of blood everywhere, and the stink of decomposing bodies filled his nostrils. Swords, kunai, and shurikens filled the grounds and the massive walls that surrounded the entrance. Even those old bones that were there, even before Madara had showed him this hideout, were now nothing more than ash. And that was until he noticed just the amount of pieces there were. Toby estimated at least 100 bodies, and that was just counting the petrified ones. Toby approached one of them and gasped when he saw a 3-tomoed pattern in the rock. Toby quickly approached the entrance but noticed that it was blocked. When he approached it, he saw some message still imprinted in the wall, burning in black flames. "Compliments of the Kyuubi brat." Toby read in absolute anger and hate. The brat had somehow found about his hideout. Oh, Naruto would pay very dearly for this. Years of planning, all gone in the blink of an eye. The Uchiha clan, years of training, supplies, 1 decade to prepare to their plan, and everything just washed away. Toby yelled to the skies and cursed Uchiha Madara and his grandson. This wasn't a battle to begin with, it had been a massacre. 1 day earlier Konoha, it was a beautiful and sunny day all over Konoha. The Hidden Leaf village basked with sunlight. Merchants opened their stores and various shinobi could be seen jumping from rooftops to rooftops. Up in the walls, several shinobi stood guard, watching the horizon for any sign of trouble. "This is boring," some Chunin replied as he stretched his arms and popped his back. "I hate surveillance gigs," he said. "You complain too much, soldier." "Eyes front," Ibiki ordered, and the Chunin immediately assumed a correct position. "Heads up," Ibiki said, and the Chunin turned to him confused. "Swoosh, wha?" the Chunin cried as he stumbled due to some blonde shinobi blurring in front of him. "Who was that?" the Chunin asked as he already lost vision of him. The Chunin hadn't even sensed him approach and only caught a glimpse of yellow hair. "Senjin Naruto," Ibiki replied, making the Chunin's jaw drop. "What is he doing here?" the Chunin asked. Everyone had heard about the Senju clan heir. "Morning workout," Ibiki said, and the Chunin gulped. "At that speed?" the Chunin asked, stupefied, and Ibiki chuckled. "You don't get S-rank status by being lazy," Ibiki explained, chuckling, and made a head motion towards the Chunin, who took a step back as Naruto blurred by them again. "That is insane," the Chunin cried in disbelief, and Ibiki chuckled again. "Heads up," Ibiki said, but this time the Chunin caught glimpse of a purple blur. The Chunin spinned around until he dropped on the floor with his head spinning. "And that?" the Chunin asked. "Senju Hinata," Ibiki replied. "Senju?" the Chunin asked, confused. "I'm surprised you don't know. The whole village already knows those two are engaged." Ibiki replied, only to smirk at the Chunin's shocked face. "The brat is only 17. The Chunin pouted. "With Naruto and Hinata. How come you didn't wake me up?" Hinata asked as she caught up with Naruto. Both of them were running on the walls around Konoha in their warm-up routine for the day. "You look peaceful on your sleep," Naruto replied, looking back. "How many laps you have left?" Hinata asked. "Just the one," Naruto replied, and raised an eyebrow when he saw Hinata smile. "Race you home," Hinata said as she blurred away from Naruto and quickly disappeared from view. "That's cheating," Naruto yelled as he also picked up speed. "At the Senju compound, I won," Hinata said, smirking as she watched Naruto arrive. "You cheated," Naruto pouted. "You want to say that to my face?" Both Naruto and Hinata heard yelling coming from inside the compound. Both of them opened the door and walked inside to see a strange situation that, funnily enough, everyone saw coming. Both Tobirama and Nao were staring at each other with sparks flying across their eyes. Itachi was at the table and could only sigh at their antics. Senju, Uchiha, both of them yelled as the sparks intensified and their chakra spiked. "Can't you keep her in control?" Naruto asked towards Itachi, who gave him an "Are you serious" face. I just got my life and I want to keep it, Itachi simply replied. Alright, knock it off, Kushina said, but both Tobirama and Nao didn't even move. Don't make me go get my sword, Kushina replied sweetly, making everyone pale. Tobirama and Nao quickly stopped their antics and split apart. Just another day at the Senju compound. Poof, there was a cloud smoke right in the middle of the room, gathering the attention towards it. When the smoke cleared, a single toad was standing in the middle of the room with a scroll in his mouth. A message from Ero Sennin, Naruto said as Tsunade walked towards the toad and collected the scroll. Jiraiya has found the Uchiha clan hideout. It seems Nao's information was right, Tsunade said as she destroyed the message and placed on the table the hideout's location. Of course it was, Nao said, crossing her arms. Jiraiya is waiting on us. Now what? Tsunade asked towards the dragons. We strike, Tobirama simply said as he got up. According to Jiraiya, the hideout has a single entrance that is located in the crater. We will have higher ground and we will be able to ambush them, Tobirama explained. Don't we think we might be rushing this? Tsunade pondered. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt, Tobirama said as Tsunade had to agree. For those who were born and lived during the clan wars, they knew war better than anyone. So we will attack at night and Naruto will use his Kirin Jutsu, makes sense, Minato said, nodding, making everyone blink and turn to him. What? Minato asked confused, and Kushina just slapped her forehead. Sometimes I wonder why Hiruzen made you Hokage, Tobirama said, and pretty much summed everyone's thoughts. And once we ambush them, we will do what? Hashirama said, getting suspicious. We will kill them all, Tobirama coldly said, making Hashirama flinch at his tone. You are insane, Hashirama said with a shocked face. They were just following their clan head. Some of them might be good people like those 2-inch, Hashirama said, pointing towards Itachi and Nao. Both of them remained silent as they watched both Senju brothers bicker. We might not have other choice, Naruto softly said, and everyone turned to him. You too, Hashirama said, shaking his head. You would slaughter nearly 300 Uchihas just like that? Hashirama asked in disbelief. Damn it, Hashirama, Naruto said, slamming his hand on the table, making everyone flinch. Don't take me for some naive kid. You know very well what Nao said about their plans. They have above 50 Manjikias, Hashirama, 50-inch, Naruto stated. They can conquer any village with the right plan and their numbers alone, Naruto explained. They can, it doesn't mean they will, Hashirama firmly said, and Naruto shook his head. And would you be willing to wait and find out? Naruto asked, and Hashirama remained silent. Itachi, what's your take on this? Naruto asked towards the silent Uchiha. I made peace with my clan a long time ago. Their fate is not mine to choose, Itachi simply said, and Naruto sighed. Ba-chan, Naruto said, turning towards Tsunade, who smiled in understanding. I'm the Hokage Naruto. My primary concern is the welfare of the village. You are the leader of the dragons, so it's your choice to make, Tsunade replied, and Naruto nodded and watched as everyone looked at him, waiting for his answer. Kurama, your opinion, Naruto said in thought as he wanted one last opinion before making his choice. I don't know what the fuss is about. You have already killed more than 300-inch, Kurama simply replied, but Naruto remained silent. But those kills were never premeditated. The Uchiha clan hasn't done anything yet. They may be arrogant or vicious, but that isn't cause for termination. It was all Fugaku. How would you justify killing 300 people, which most might be innocent? Naruto thought, sighing. That is war, Naruto. Most of the times either side is right or wrong. They simply fight for what they think is right. They fight for revenge, power, land, money, and even love. It doesn't matter, and that is why my father and your predecessor tried so hard to bring peace, but, in the end, he failed. Kurama replied, and Naruto slowly nodded, his mind clouded by Kurama's words. Perspective is a funny thing, wouldn't you say? Naruto rhetorically asked, chuckling. Kurama just raised an eyebrow. Look at Nagato. I don't know what made him that way, but for him to chase peace so vehemently. He holds nothing back to reach his goal, and I can easily tell that Fugaku is simply manipulating him. To Nagato, peace is achieved by pain. When mankind know each other's pain, then they will understand each other and cease this pointless bloodshed. Then we have Fugaku's point of view, a man who simply wishes to rule the world. And finally me, Naruto said, smiling as he looked up to see Kurama. I will bring peace to this world on my own. I will carry this world's hate and lead it to a brighter tomorrow. I will bear the burden of my choices and I will bring peace to the world in my own way. This world is but an orphan child and I will unite it under one banner, not through force or an illusion, but through love and understanding," Naruto said as he made up his mind. He would bear the burden and he alone would suffer with the pain and consequences his choices may bring. There will be no Konoha, no Kumo, no Iwa, no Kiri and no Suna. There will only be one people, on a lonely planet. There will only be one shinobi. Naruto finished as he looked towards Kurama whose jaw was on the ground. "Why you?" Kurama stuttered as he tried to come with the right words. Kurama chuckled as he looked towards the grinning face of Naruto. "Then I will help on your quest, as will all of my siblings," Kurama said as he brought his fist down for Naruto to bump it. "You have your answer, I see," Kurama said, and Naruto tilted his head on confusion. "You are ready to meet him," Kurama said. "Me dash." Naruto was about to ask who he was meeting when he simply toppled to the floor unconscious. "Naruto," everyone on the outside world yelled as Naruto fell to the ground. Hinata was already upon him running a diagnosed jutsu, but everything seemed fine with him. His heart rate was stable and his chakra network seemed to be running normally as well. Although everything was fine with his body, his conscious mind wandered off into the beyond and into unknown places. "I see you decided to bring him before me," some old man said as he watched the Kyuubi approach him with Naruto unconscious on his head. "Kurama-kun," the old man added, lifting his head and displaying two silvery Rinnegan eyes. The old man floating in front of Kurama had deep wrinkles, a long beard and short light grayish-colored shaggy hair that spiked up in the front with two distinctive parts of his hair resembling horns and a chin-length braid hanging in front of his left ear. He had pronounced eyebrow ridges with small horn protrusions above them. He also had a Rinnegan-like marking on his forehead. He wore a white full-length cloak, Haori, with a high collar, revealing his necklace with 6 red Magatama. On the back of his cloak was a reflection of a seal which had the Rinnegan with 9 Magatama and 3 rows beneath it. "Just like you said, old man," Kurama said, giving the old man a toothy grin. "That I did," the old man replied, chuckling as he watched Kurama lower Naruto into the ground. Naruto squirmed on the ground as he seemed too deep into some dream. First memory. "Ka-san, Ka-san!" A little kid yelled in glee as he ran through the halls of the palace where he lived. The little boy had short and spiky brown hair, but the most interesting fact about him would be his silver eyes, with several concentric circles around them. "Slow down, Hagoromo-kun," some woman replied with a gentle smile. Hagoromo just grinned as he looked at the smiling face of his mother. She had very delicate facial feature. She had long, sweeping light-colored hair that touched the ground. Most noticeably were 2 horn-like protrusions which stuck out from her head, a trait shared with her son. Her eyebrows were cut very short, an outward symbol of royalty, and she wore a dark shade of lipstick on her lips and a dark shade of nail polish on her long fingernails. She wore the transitional high-collared haimkimono which was adorned with intricate lines and tomo running down the center and edges of the gown. "Look, look!" Hagoromo hurriedly said as he sat on the ground in lotus position. Kagaya, the woman in front of him and his mother, just smiled at the bubbly actions of her son. Hagoromo took a deep breath as he concentrated. A small gust of wind was felt, and Kagaya raised an eyebrow as she watched her son start to levitate from the ground. It was nothing more than a simple inch at first, but he kept going higher into the air as the time passed. 1 minute later and Hagoromo was already 3 feet of the ground. "Careful now," Kagaya warned, concerned that her son might hurt himself. "I can go higher," Hagoromo said, desperate to prove himself. In a burst of air, Hagoromo rose nearly 10 feet into the air in the fraction of a second. "See," Hagoromo said, smiling triumphantly. "H-H-H-H," Hagoromo shouted as he lost his concentration in the midst of his own celebration. Hagoromo started falling, but instead of hitting the hard and cold floor of the palace, he found himself on his mother's arms. "My bad," Hagoromo said, chuckling while Kagaya just smiled. Second memory. "This is as far as you will go," a now older version of Hagoromo shouted. He looked like he had just passed his teens and became a young adult. Hagoromo was standing in the way of a colossal beast. The beast was titanic in size, with each limb being just big if not bigger than beeches themselves. The beast possessed visible legs, which it used along with its right arm to stand, as its left arm was missing at the elbow. Its facial appearance was possessed of a single ear on the right side of its head, while its mouth, which contained straight teeth and a nostril, moved to the left side and several horns formed on various parts on its head with 2 underneath its chin. All in all, it was monster in every way of the word. It had no conscience and knew no end. Its only goal was to reclaim what was stolen from him, chakra. With a single swipe of his tentacles, entire continents were split in half. With a mighty roar, oceans were vaporized. Hagoromo was fighting the Shinju, or as most now know it, the Jubi. Rainbow, Hengoku! Hagoromo shouted as he slammed his staff on the ground and gigantic pulse of gravity was unleashed. The beast, that could easily destroy the lands, was flung back, tumbling through the ground, crashing and destroying mountains until it came to an end, and yet it seemed unhurt. To think you were unhurt against such attack, Hagoromo said as he took a deep breath. Sweat was pouring down his face as he stood his ground against the strongest beast alive. Senpu Myojinmin, Sage Arts Gate of the Great God, Hagoromo said as dozens of red tories fell from above, pinning the Jubi to the ground. Large red gates pinned his tails, arms and legs as the beast was momentarily trapped. This should buy me enough time, Hagoromo said as he felt the beast struggle as his gates start to crack. Hagoromo sat on the ground in lotus position as he began to concentrate. Small rocks around him started levitating and a small gust of wind swayed by. Hagoromo slammed his hands together and slowly began to drive them apart. A pitch black sphere started forming between his hands. A buzzing sound was heard as this black sphere started growing in size, reaching the size of a football until it stopped. Cho Chibaku Tensei, big planetary devastation, Hagoromo said as he released the black ball and watched it sail through the air and high into the sky. The sphere started glowing and the whole planet started shaking. Chunks of earth, big as mountains themselves, were ripped from the ground, giving birth to gigantic craters. The Jubi broke his restraints and pinned his tails to the ground, in a desperate move to secure himself to earth. Nisan now! Hagoromo yelled towards his brother who was in the ground in meditative position. Sealing style, Hagoromo's brother said as he slammed his hands on the ground. 16 trigrams divine seal, the brother said as hundreds of purplish chains, almost transparent, rose from his location. These chains quickly made their way towards the Jubi like snakes. They slithered towards their target. The chains wrapped themselves around the Jubi and started siphoning their chakra into Hagoromo, who gritted his teeth, feeling the heavy chakra enter his body. Argh, the Jubi yelled to the skies as the beast started shrinking. The beast's form started wavering and the skin itself started withering away until it remained nothing more than a brown husk, depleted of life. Hagoromo absorbed all the chakra of the Jubi and tumbled forward, using his arms to steady himself and taking deep breaths. Hagoromo looked up at the sky to see the new addiction. A new planetary form had just been created, and inside it, the depleted husk of Jubi, sealed away for all eternity. We1NI-san, Hagoromo said as his brother held him by the shoulder. Yes, we did, his brother replied, smiling as both left the battlefield. Third memory, we see Hagoromo again, but this time he was already at an old age. He stood in the middle of a circle with several kanji in it. Around him stood all the 9 Bijou, still young as they had just been born from being split from the Jubi. Shikaku, Matabai, Isabu, Son Goku, Kaku, Saiken, Chomei, Gyuki and Kurama. Hagoromo started as all the Bijou listened in. You will always be together, even when you are separated. And one day, you will all become one. With different names, in different forms than you exist now. And unlike when you were within me, you will be led down the right path. When the time comes, you will know what true power is, Hagoromo said as he released his last breath. All the Bijous bowed their heads to their father. You will seek someone worthy, and when you find him, bring him before me. Kurama remembered his father's request as he let out a lone tear. End of memories. Naruto groaned as he opened his eyes, still a bit hazy from the rush of memories, and caught his surroundings. He looked around and spotted Kurama behind him grinning like a madman. Naruto got onto his feet and noticed a floating old man in front of him. Hagoromo. Naruto started. He took in the appearance of the man in front of him. Otsutsuki. Naruto breathed out in shock, looking at the Sage of Six Paths, standing right there in front of him. Is this some joke? Naruto asked, annoyed towards Kurama, who chuckled in return. I assure you I'm very real, Hagoromo replied as he stopped floating and stood on the ground. It's very nice to finally meet you face to face, Senju Naruto, Hagoromo said, smiling as Naruto's jaw dropped. He had very good reasons for it. After all, Hagoromo Otsutsuki, father to all ninjutsu and to all shinobi, was standing right in front of Naruto. "It's an honor to meet you in person." Naruto chuckled nervously, bowing to the sage in respect. "How are you here if I'm not so bold to ask?" Naruto carefully asked, as he didn't want to anger him. "When I created all of my sons and daughters, I sealed my last chakra into Kurama," Hagoromo replied, and Naruto's jaw dropped. "And I gave Kurama the task to find a worthy heir, one that shared my beliefs. I guess you could say it was poetic justice for you to bear the Rinnegan as well." Hagoromo chuckled while Naruto just nodded dumbly. "You knew all along?" Naruto asked towards Kurama. "Of course," Kurama replied, puffing his chest in pride. "I kept this fact hidden and searched through the ages for the man my father said that would unite the world and bring peace. I thought that man was Senju Hashirama, but I was wrong and moved on. Then I thought that man would be Namake's Minato, but he failed as well. But the moment I first met you, I could see it through your eyes that you would be the 1 inch. Hashirama is a good man, but his too soft and forgiving. Minato is exactly like him, strong, caring and forgiving to a fault. Tobirama is the opposite of his brother and Minato. He cares only for the protection of his own people, and he would do anything for them, regarding what damage we would cause to the others. You bear the best attributes from each of them. You do whatever it takes to protect the people you care for, but you still feel bad for any pain you cause to the other side. Even though you are pondering if you should kill the Uchiha clan. It's true they may be innocent, but killing them would a crucial strike against the Akatsuki and Tobi. For some reason you are able to see beyond that and make choices for the greater good no matter the consequences. A true leader, Naruto, that is what you are. It is a curious thing, Naruto, but perhaps those who are best suited to power are those who have never sought it. Those who, like you, have leadership thrust upon them, and take up the mantle because they must, and find to their own surprise that they wear it well. You speak as if I am a leader. Would a good leader be willing to simply lay waste to innocent men for the greater good? Naruto asked, and Hagoromo smiled. He reminded himself so much in that boy. All the struggles he had endured because of his eyes and powers. We're all human, aren't we? Every human life is worth the same, and worth saving. Hagoromo said as Naruto turned to him. So should I just ignore the fact they betrayed the village and went to work towards a man that killed thousands of innocent people? How do you know when it's right to kill, most likely innocent people? Naruto asked, and Hagoromo smiled. That is your choice to make. Hagoromo said, and Naruto groaned. Give me some answers, old man. Naruto complained. You are older, wiser and more powerful than me. Naruto said, but Hagoromo only chuckled. You are right on 2 counts. I am older. Hagoromo said, flicking a string of his gray hair. And I am wiser since you are nothing but a knucklehead. Hagoromo said, chuckling as Naruto's eyes twitched. But I am not more powerful than you. Hagoromo said, and Naruto's jaw dropped. But. Naruto stuttered at Hagoromo's outrageous claim. You created the moon. While I am strong myself, I could never achieve something like that. Naruto said, refuting the old man's claims. It always seems impossible until it's done. Hagoromo said, and Naruto pondered if he would be able to do such feat. He was broken from his thoughts when Hagoromo started walking towards him. Hagoromo arrived near him and placed a hand above his chest. I can feel it, and you can as well. You are stronger than me. Hagoromo said, smiling as he watched Naruto slowly nod and agreed with him. You still didn't answer my question, old man. Naruto said knowingly as the sage chuckled. My life ended many centuries ago, Naruto. It's your turn to watch over the world. I can show you the path, but only you can walk on it. The sage replied, and Naruto groaned. It looked like no one was going to give him straight answers, so should I just kill them and be done with it? Naruto pondered. Is it the possibility of regret you fear? Hagoromo asked, and Naruto slowly nodded. Real leaders must be ready to sacrifice all for the happiness of their people. Hagoromo said, and Naruto chuckled. You are right. I would do everything for the happiness of my people, but what about the others' happiness? Naruto countered. We could stay here all day long arguing about philosophical points of view and never reach the right answer. Every choice you make will have its consequences. It's how you deal with them that defines who and what you are. Hagoromo explained, and Naruto nodded. I will stick by my choices and I will finish what you started. I will unite the world under a single banner, and the world will know peace. Naruto said, grinning, making Hagoromo nod his head. It's time for me to leave. Hagoromo said, smiling as he lifted his hand onto the air. Specks of light could be seen emanating from his hand, who by now was almost see-through. I have nothing else to give other than these two things, Hagoromo said as he took out his 6-tomoed cape and placed it around Naruto. When he was finished, he picked up his staff and placed it on Naruto's hands. The staff is my greatest weapon and the one that I wielded in my fight against the Jubi, Hagoromo said as Naruto grasped the staff tightly. Naruto hit the staff on the ground and watched as the ground shook and several ripples appeared on the water. Did you never found it strange that Bojutsu was the first art you learned and yet you mastered it so quickly and at such young age? Hagoromo questioned as he watched Naruto do some experimental swings with his new weapon. With a single swing, powerful gusts of wind erupted from it. Another swing and a cloud of fire rose from it. And the cape? Naruto asked, curious, while Hagoromo just grinned. It makes you look badass, Hagoromo said while Naruto and Kurama's sweat dropped. I'm leaving, Hagoromo said as his whole body started becoming transparent. The world is in your hands now. It's my legacy to you, Hagoromo said as he exploded into shining particles of light. Let's go change the world into a better place, Kurama, Naruto said, and Kurama nodded, taking Naruto from this plane and back to his own world. Back in the real world, only a few seconds had passed since Naruto had fallen unconscious on the ground, and the whole compound was a riot. Hinata and Tsunade were all over Naruto trying to diagnose just what happened. Minato and Tobirama were scanning Naruto's seal for any possible malfunction or possible overload of him having the whole Kyuubi. And that was when it happened. Naruto suddenly opened his eyes to reveal his Rinnegan glowing in a silver color. As his eyes opened, a small shockwave was released, sending everyone tumbling backwards. Naruto smiled as he started getting up. Everyone watched in shock as a white cape started manifesting itself all around Naruto. He now wore a white full-length cloak with a high collar, with several black magatamas. On the back of his cloak was a reflection of a seal which had the Rinnegan with 9 magatama and 3 rows beneath it. As if things couldn't get any weirder, a metal staff started forming in his right hand. To some it would seem like some piece of metal, but it was so much more. It was lighter but stronger than steel. Naruto ran chakra through his staff and everyone watched as a broken circle appeared at one end while he rested the other on the ground. While moments ago Naruto seemed too confused in what to do or what to choose, this Naruto seemed to radiate peace and understanding. His eyes seemed to betray wisdom beyond ages. It was as if Naruto had been reconnected to a lost piece of himself. It looked like Naruto had found inner peace. So, Naruto said, breaking everyone from their trance. You won't believe who I just met, Naruto said, grinning. And Naruto, Minato stuttered as he looked towards his son. Where did you get that staff? Minato asked in shock. There wasn't much information regarding the Sage of the Six Paths, but anyone shinobi worth his salt would at least know the legend that created chakra. I met him, Hagoromo Otsutsuki, Naruto said while everyone looked at Naruto in confusion. You know him as the Sage of the Six Paths, Naruto said, and everyone's jaw dropped. I know that feeling, Naruto said as his new staff disappeared into his storage seals and he sat down. I thought it was a prank from Kurama when I saw him in front of me. Naruto chuckled while everyone just listened in. Apparently the sage sealed some of his chakra into Kurama to be released when Kurama had found a worthy heir. I met him and talked to him. He advised and gave me his staff as a gift, Naruto said, and everyone slowly nodded like some robots in sync. We will strike at night, no survivors, Naruto simply said, and Hashirama had eyes widened at Naruto's choice. I won't be a part of this, sorry, Hashirama said as he walked out of the room, making everyone sigh. Let's gear up and prepare, Tobirama said, and the remaining dragons nodded. Don't get caught and come out clean, Tsunade warned. I don't want the daimyo of the Fawn country breathing down on my neck for attacking his land, Tsunade said, and everyone nodded. What about Miko-chan? Kushina said sadly. She was like a sister to me and I know that she would never go along with this, Kushina said, and now chuckled sadly. Mikoto is a submissive and broken woman, now began, and Kushina focused on her. Did you know she has the Manjikyu because she betrayed you? Now said, and Kushina was shocked. Betrayed me? Kushina asked, confused. But she never did anything to hurt me in any way whatsoever, Kushina explained. I know how, Minato replied, sighing. Now that I know that Tobi is Fugaka, everything is clear to me. Mikoto told Fugaka where you would be delivering Naruto, Minato said, and Kushina was shocked, but she knew that it was true. Kushina had only told Mikoto, her sister and most trusted friend. Mikoto was responsible for the attack on Konoha. Only I, Hiruzen and his wife, and a select few of Umbu knew of your location at that time. Minato said, and Kushina sighed, wondering how Mikoto could betray her like that. I guess I will find out what happened tonight. Kushina said, and Minato nodded. Send word to Jiraiya about our plans. Tsunade said, and Minato nodded, placing a scroll on the toad and watched him dispel in smoke. At night, Mountain's graveyard, it was a surprisingly clear night. There were no clouds, making a perfect starry sky in the Fawn country. It was also a full moon, shining brightly high in the sky, illuminating the grounds. Outside of the Uchiha's hideout was complete silence. There was no wind or any type of animals. It was the quiet before the storm. Naruto was sitting on the edge of the walls that led down into the crater where the hideout stood. Behind stood all the dragons with the exception of Hashirama, who chose not to participate in this. Naruto's hair swayed in the wind as the moon shone in the sky. To anyone else it would look like a terrifying picture, Naruto sitting down with masked shinobi behind him. About time you arrived, Ero-sennin, Naruto said as Jiraiya arrived near them in a shushin. I was far away already. I didn't want to stick around while I waited for decision on what to do. Jiraiya explained and Naruto nodded, rising up. Byakugan. Hinata shouted as her eyes flared to life and several bulges appear around her eyes. Hinata sat down as she concentrated slowly on expanding her range so she could gaze inside the hideout. This hideout is massive. There are hundreds of chambers, hallways extending for miles. Hinata explained. But there is only one exit, right? Naruto asked and Hinata nodded, confirming. What about their numbers? Naruto asked, wanting to know if the Uchihas were all present. 342. Hinata answered and Naruto nodded. It's slightly below their numbers when the clan was supposedly slaughtered a decade ago. According to Nao's intel, they have at least 5 members capable of using Susanoo. She didn't know anything about the others' powers because they kept to themselves. Naruto mused to himself. I'm going in, Naruto said, and everyone nodded and went to do their part of the plan. Naruto's part was to infiltrate the hideout. Naruto took a deep breath as he restrained his chakra levels to their lowest level, and with his level of control, only a skilled sensor would be able to pick him up. Naruto jumped down and quickly approached the main entrance. It was blocked by some gates, but Naruto could easily pass them with his Kamui. All clear, Hinata said through his intercom. Hinata would guide Naruto's movement through the base and warn him against possible enemies. Naruto nodded and phased through the door and into the hideout. Like Jiraiya had said many times, enemies never look up, so Naruto kept to the ceilings as he made his way through the hallways. The first junction is 20 meters upon your next left, Hinata said, and Naruto nodded, making his way towards the first strategic point in the hideout. Naruto focused and noticed that no one was around. He placed a hand on the ceiling and watched as kanji flowed from his hand, embedding itself on the wall, until disappearing completely from view. Naruto made a tiger seal and noticed as the seal slightly glowed before vanishing again. First seal in place, Naruto replied in a low voice through the intercom. Naruto continued on his path, avoiding potential cluster sites and easily sneaking around any Uchihas that came around. It wasn't like they were expecting anyone sneaking in. Naruto phased through the ground beneath him, and he came into another room. Naruto clung to the ceiling as he looked down to see some Uchiha resting on a couch. Naruto could feel that the Uchiha was still awake, although he was near the place where Naruto would need the next seal. Wa dash! The Uchiha was about to yell when his screams were muffled by a swirling sound. Naruto had used his Kamui and, in a blink of an eye, had sent the Uchiha into his dimension. On the outside, a clone of Naruto had taken the Uchiha out of his dimension and promptly dealt with him. Fifth seal and ready, Naruto said as the seal glowed and disappeared as well. Naruto nodded to himself on a job well done and quickly sank into the walls as a couple of Uchihas stepped into the room. Where the hell is Ryu? Some Uchiha groaned. Maybe he's in the hall, the other replied as both Uchihas went searching for him. Naruto sighed in relief as he didn't want to set off any alarms yet. Naruto made his way towards the last place and cursed his luck as the last place was crawling with Uchihas. Naruto counted at least 20 since the last place seemed like some living room or social room. How the hell am I going to plant the seal? I can't warp them all at once, Naruto cursed to himself. The plan wouldn't work without every seal being placed in the right place. Henge, Naruto muttered to himself as he transformed himself into the Uchiha he had just killed a few moments ago. Naruto sank to the outside of the room and simply walked through the doors like some ordinary member. Naruto approached the wall and very discreetly applied the seal without anyone noticing. "There you are, Ria!" Naruto heard someone calling and turned to see two Uchihas approaching. "Are we still on for tonight?" the Uchihas asked, and Naruto cursed his luck. He had to run just into the people that were looking for him. "Hinata-chan, tell my clone to read the Uchiha's mind I just sent," Naruto silently said through the intercom. "Tonight?" Ryo Naruto said as he tilted his head to the side in confusion. "Don't tell me you forgot?" the Uchiha asked in disbelief. Naruto was wondering what else to say when he felt a rush of information. "Oh, right, the poker game," Ryo said, making both Uchihas chuckle. "I hope you are ready to lose," Ryo smirked. "All right then. We will see you tonight at midnight," one Uchiha said as both of them walked off, and Naruto sighed in relief. Naruto walked out of the room, and once he was outside of everyone's view he simply swirled away of the hideout, and arrived near Hinata and the others. "Close call," Naruto said to out loud. "All the seals are in place, let's get the rest of plan going," Naruto said. "Hinata-chan, you're up," Naruto said, and Hinata nodded as she took a deep breath and she sat down. Not even 5 minutes later Hinata had entered Sage mode with purple markings on her face. "Senpu, second no aim, Sage Arts, Petrifying Rain," Hinata said as heavy rain started to fall. 1. Mito, place a barrier around Hinata-chan since she's vulnerable when using this jutsu, Naruto said towards Mito as he looked towards Hinata, who sat on the ground completely still. Naruto channeled chakra into his right hand and sent a beam into the sky. From the dark clouds of rain, several thunders roared as they lit up the night sky. Everyone turned to Naruto in confusion as his Kirin Jutsu wasn't part of the plan. "Just in case," Naruto said, and everyone did their part. "We are ready," Tobirama said, and Naruto nodded as he brought his right hand and made the tiger seal. "Activate," Naruto said. Deep inside the hideout, the seals started glowing and the ground started vibrating slowly. Only a few seconds later, the whole cave started shaking. "This place is caving," some Uchiha said as specks of dust fell from the ceiling. "Everybody out," the Uchiha yelled, and everyone started running outside so that they didn't get crushed to death. Little did they know that inside was still safer. "We made it," some Uchiha said as he jumped outside, taking deep breaths. Rain?" the Uchiha muttered as he looked up to see heavy rain and thunders. "Some luck," the Uchiha thought to himself as the hideout decided to cave when it was raining. "Are they all out?" Naruto asked towards Hinata, who nodded. Naruto made another tiger hand seal and activated an explosive tag he left at the entrance of the cave. With a loud explosion, the only entrance to the cave had been completely sealed off. "Arghhh," some Uchiha yelled, making everyone look towards him. "Sabaku Taiso, giant sand burial," Gaara said as several Uchihas were enveloped by sand that rested beneath their feet. With the confusion on the hideout caving, they didn't notice that the whole earth beneath their feet was actually sand. The Uchihas were simply crushed to death. "We are under attack," some Uchiha yelled, placing everyone on high alert. Every single Uchiha had their Sharingan blazing and were looking for their enemies. "Arghhh," another Uchiha yelled as he fell to the ground, trying to scratch something of his arms. Get it out, the Uchiha yelled in despair as he watched his right arm begin to turn gray and unresponsive. Everyone watched in shock as their friend squirmed in the ground until he remained completely immobile and gray, turned into stone. "Arghhh," another one yelled as his arm began to turn gray as well. The Uchiha fell to his knees as he tried to ignore the pain. Another Uchiha decided to take matters onto his own hands and took out his blade. In a burst of speed, he sliced the dying Uchiha's arm off. The arm fell to the ground as it turned completely into stone. "Arghhh," the Uchiha whose arm just got cut off continued screaming as he started turning gray. It appeared cutting off his arm didn't even slow it down. "It's the rain," another Uchiha said as he noticed that the rain had chakra in it. "Take cover," the Uchiha yelled, and no one questioned him. Some summoned their Susanoo shield, others took cover behind some rocks or the bones that were on the grounds, and the others rose some kind of mud walls to shield them from the rain. "We managed to take out almost half," Tobirama said. They were still watching from above the walls. Hinata's rain and Gaara's sand took out almost half of the members since they were all caught off guard. "Let's finish the rest. Me, Tobirama, and Minato will go in first," Naruto said as both Blondes and Tobirama jumped down, landing in the crater. The whole ground was riddled with Hiraishin seals and, as such, the remaining Uchihas never knew what hit them. Hirashinjiri, Flying Thunder God / Tobirama said as he appeared next to an Uchiha with his Raijin no Ken, Thunder God's sword, extended. The Uchiha's head simply slid down his neck and hit the ground with a thumb sound. The head hit the ground, but Tobirama was already gone. Rasengan, Minato said as an Uchiha was blasted back. Another Uchiha took the opportunity to attack Minato, but only sliced air as Minato appeared behind him and slit his throat. Naruto flashed into the middle of 5 Uchihas who felt and appear. The Uchihas raised their swords and kunais. As the Uchihas were preparing their strike, Naruto flexed both wrists, as long black metal blades erupted from both his palms. Naruto extended both blades forward as he spun around, quickly killing all 5 Uchihas at once. Before the blood could even touch him, he was already gone. "I know that you are there, come down," Mikoto said with her manjikyu glowing and a red rib cage around her. Mikoto watched as one shinobi jumped down from the roof and landed in front of her. The shinobi bore blood-red samurai-styled armor with a dragon symbol emblazoned in the chest plate. The shinobi had long red hair and had an equal-colored mask covering his face. "You can take your mask off, I know who you are, Kushina," Mikoto sadly said, and watched as the shinobi's mask fell to the ground, revealing Kushina, who had a sad expression at seeing the person she considered a sister. "I don't know how you are alive, but it's good to see you again," Mikoto said, smiling. "Did you really tell Fugakuware I was giving birth?" Kushina said with a neutral face. Mikoto only nodded. "Why did you do it?" Kushina asked, frowning. "I thought we were like sisters," Kushina said. "What would you choose, Kushina?" Mikoto asked, but Kushina was confused. "Minato or Konoha?" Mikoto added, and Kushina remained silent. "I chose to stay by my family's side, but now I regret it," Mikoto sadly said. "You can put all of this behind and come with us." "It's not too late, Miko-chan," Kushina desperately said, and Mikoto gave a hollow chuckle. "Always the forgiving heart," Mikoto said, smiling as her eyes glowed and her Susanoo increased. An arm sprouted from her Susanoo and a red saber appeared in its hand. "Futon no Yoroi, wind armor," Kushina said as her body became surrounded by a ghostly white aura. Mikoto swinged her sword but caught only air as Kushina was long gone. Her wind armor drastically reduced wind resistance, allowing Kushina a large boost in physical speed. "Wind slash," Kushina said as she channeled Shurika through her katana, giving it a blue hue. Kushina flicked her blade and released a blue wave. Mikoto brought her saber and simply broke it like nothing. Mikoto's Susanoo raised her saber and was about to swing it down when several golden chains sprouted from the ground, wrapping itself around her arm and pinning her Susanoo to the ground. "Miko-chan, stop this," Kushina pleaded, but Mikoto just smiled sadly as she blurred through hand seals. "Katon, Gakakyu no Jutsu, great fireball technique," Mikoto said, taking a deep breath and unleashing a torrent of flames. The flames washed into the ground but only hit Kushina's after image. Kushina's sword glowed a brighter blue as she reappeared next to Mikoto's Susanoo and sliced its arm off. The Susanoo's arm fell to the ground and simply faded from view as another one was born. Mikoto dropped her Susanoo as the chains fell to the ground and retracted back into Kushina. Kushina flexed her blade forward and channeled a large amount of chakra through her body. "Dragon dive," Kushina said as she exploded from her location, flying forward at blinding speeds towards Mikoto. Mikoto smiled sadly as her manjikyu pattern seemed to change. "Kuranasu, god of time," Mikoto thought to herself as her eyes pulsed. She saw Kushina begin to slow down until she stopped. Mikoto looked around and even the rain seemed to stop and over in the air. All around her, everything had come to a halt. "I'm sorry, old friend, I hope you can forgive me," Mikoto sadly said as she placed herself right in front of Kushina's sword. "Why do you wish to die?" Naruto asked as he suddenly appeared next to both women. Mikoto's eyes widened when she saw Naruto. "How can you move?" "My ability can slow down time to the point that everything stops," Mikoto said, surprised. "I can do something similar, so I easily felt what you were doing." Naruto chuckled and Mikoto was surprised to see another time-related ability. "You didn't answer my question though," Naruto said, and Mikoto lowered her head. "I deserve it. After everything I did, all the lives that were lost because of me. I just want to lay it behind me and rest," Mikoto said sadly, and Naruto nodded, allowing Mikoto to make her own choices. "Thank you," Mikoto said as she stopped her jutsu and Kushina pierced Mikoto's chest with her sword. "And no," Kushina said in shock as she delivered a fatal blow to Mikoto. She didn't understand what happened. One moment Mikoto was far away from her, the other she was right at the tip of her blade. "Why?" Kushina asked, sobbing as her friend laid at the death's gates. "Cough, it was my choice, Kushina-chan," Mikoto said, smiling as a trail of blood ran down from her mouth. "Did forgive me?" Mikoto barely managed to get out. She could feel her life slipping away. "Of course I do, Miko-chan," Kushina said, and Mikoto let out her last breath. Kushina lowered her body's friend to the ground and looked at Mikoto, who had a gentle smile in her face. "Naruto!" Kushina screamed, and in a flash Naruto was by her side. "What happened?" Naruto asked, fainting confusion. Bring her back," Kushina said as tears ran down her face. "No," Naruto simply replied, closing his eyes. As much as it hurt him to see his mother in tears, he wouldn't change Mikoto's choices. "What?" Kushina roared, getting up and standing at Naruto's level. "Bring her back," Kushina ordered, but Naruto remained still. Kushina jumped towards Naruto in rage, who simply held her as she weakly punched his chest. Please bring her back," Kushina pleaded, and Naruto shut his eyes to stop tears from coming out. "I know it's hard, but she chose this fate. Accept it and honor her memory," Naruto said, and simply held Kushina as she cried openly. A few minutes later Kushina had calmed down, and both son and mother split. "Feeling better?" Naruto asked with a small smile while Kushina just stared at Mikoto's dead form. "It's done," Tobirama said as he arrived near Naruto. He looked around to see that the Uchiha clan had been decimated. "What about the bodies?" Tobirama asked. "If your opponent is of a choleric temper, seek to irritate him," Naruto said, and Tobirama raised an eyebrow. "Leave them behind as a message to Fugaku," Naruto said, and Tobirama shrugged his shoulders. He couldn't care less. "No," Kushina softly said. "I want to bring Miko-chan with me and give her a proper burial," Kushina said, and Naruto nodded, smiling as he tossed Kushina a sealing scroll. The Uchiha clan, one of the strongest clans in the whole elemental nations, one of the founding clans of Konoha, possessing of hundreds of members and bearer of the Sharingan bloodline, had been massacred in a few minutes. Chapter 53 into Kumo. Hokage's office. "What a beautiful day," Tsunade murmured to herself as she began her daily work in the office. She had Jiraiya back in town for the next foreseeable weeks. The Uchiha clan strike had no repercussions whatsoever, and it was a sunny day to end it all. If not for the amount of paperwork already standing in front of her, it would have been one perfect day. "Tsunade-sama," Shizen said, making Tsunade raise her head. "You have a message from Kumo," Shizen said, and Tsunade raised an eyebrow. "Interesting," Tsunade thought to herself, chuckling as she read the letter. "I shouldn't be surprised in the end. It's been almost 20 years since the Third Great War ended." Crumble. Tsunade hummed in confusion as she saw small specks of dust fall from the ceiling. She started feeling some vibrations and looked at her cup to see some ripples in her morning sake. Suddenly, her office started shaking to the point she had to secure herself with chakra to avoid falling from the chair. "What the hell?" Tsunade asked to no one in her confusion. Konoha wasn't in any active fault line, so why would an earthquake appear all of a sudden? Tsunade quickly ran to her window and was met with shock when she gazed at the horizon. A swirling black sphere appeared on the horizon, drawing everything to it. The wind, trees, and even clouds seemed to shift and spiral around it. "Hokage-sama Mea!" Some Chunin burst through the door yelling at his leader, but she was already gone. "Are they going all out?" Tsunade thought to herself as he ran towards the training ground. She had to put an end to it, and fast. Moments earlier, training ground zero clang, clang, sounds of metal clashing with other metal rang through the battlegrounds. In the middle of the training ground zero, two shinobi were clashing with unprecedented fierceness. Neither one willing to forfeit or back down. The training ground zero, one of the most reckless of the training grounds, reserved only for high-level training and clashes, whose access was granted only by the Hokage's direct order. "Senpu Sage Arts!" Hashirama started, and green marks started appearing on his face. The marks formed a loop around his eyes going into his cheeks, and they had two concentric circles on his forehead. Hashirama's eyes turned to golden ones and felt like they were radiating power. "Mokutan Hijitsu," Hashirama said as he did the snake hand seal, and the ground started shaking. Hashirama looked towards Naruto, who was also building up chakra for his own jutsu. "Jukai Koten, nativity of world trees!" Hashirama shouted and flexed his arms forward, making trees burst from the ground. Hundreds upon hundreds of trees suddenly popped from the ground and started heading towards Naruto, destroying everything in their path. Enten, Inferno style, Naruto said as he pumped his lungs with air and his Manjikyu started glowing. Goka Mekyaku, Great Fire Annihilation, Naruto said, unleashing a gigantic-sized wave of black flames upon the incoming wooden barrage. Naruto unleashed fire so hot that it scorched the ground and the trees were instantly vaporized upon contact. Naruto's eyes glowed as his Susanoo formed itself around him. A silver scythe appeared from the ribcage as it sliced off a wood branch that tried to flank Naruto from the side. Naruto dropped his Susanoo and cancelled his fire jutsu and watched as Hashirama's jutsu was reduced to nothing more than black ashes on the ground. Mokuton, Kajakai Korin, Advent of a World of Flowering Trees, Hashirama said as more trees were born from the ground. The trees grew into huge heights until they started blooming into beautiful pink flowers. They were exactly like roses, beautiful and yet deadly. As the flowers bloomed, a thick yellowish mist enveloped the whole field. The flowers had released their pollen that spread through that battlefield. Anyone that inhaled even the smallest amount of it would be rendered unconscious. Katon, Goen Rasengan, Great Flame Rasengan, Naruto said as he unleashed his attack in the middle of the forest. Hashirama was forced to jump into safety as the ground around him erupted in a maelstrom of fire. A tornado of fire raged in the training grounds, unleashing scorching winds and vaporizing everything around it. Hashirama had sweat rolling down his face due to the heat being unleashed, but Naruto didn't seem to be affected by his own creations as he stood in the middle of it, enjoying the inferno he had unleashed. "Aren't they going a bit too far?" Nao asked, gulping as she watched a friendly spar between Senju Naruto and Senju Hashirama. Tobirama, Minato, Kushina, Mito, Hinata, Itachi and Nao were all watching the clash of both powerhouses safely behind a barrier. Although if the battle were to escalate, not even the barrier could stand in their way. "Well," Tobirama started, bringing his hand to his chin. "Hashirama is pissed about Naruto's choice to eliminate the Uchiha clan," Tobirama said, and Itachi sighed. "Yasaka no Magatama," Naruto said as his Susanoo evolved from the base rib cage and into a more built form, a form worthy of a warrior. Several ethereal beads formed between the Susanoo's arms and were hurled towards Hashirama in high speeds. "Mokuton, Hobi no Jutsu, Wood Expulsion," Hashirama said as a dragon-faced dome rose from the ground around him. Hashirama's wooden dome creaked as the beads dug themselves within the wood. Even thought they were thrown with impressive speed, Hashirama's jutsu managed to block them. "Senpu Mokuton Shinsa Senju, true several thousand hands," Hashirama shouted, clasping his hands together as a titanic, many-handed statue appeared. The whole training grounds quaked as the statue burst from the ground and stood in front of Naruto. The statue had such magnitude that it put the Bijou to shame. It easily toppled mountains in terms of height. "I think you might be right," Tobirama said, looking at the monstrous wooden statue in front of him. Tobirama felt like an ant before the statue in front of him. This was Hashirama's most powerful jutsu, one that could cripple even Bijou and the very one that destroyed Madara's Susanoo back during their last battle. "We should leave," Nao hurriedly said as she couldn't even see the top of the statue from her position on the ground. To think Hashirama could have this level of power. "I agree," Tobirama said, and no one needed to be told twice. "Damn, he's going all out," Naruto thought to himself. He chuckled at the good time he was having. It wasn't every day he was forced to use his most powerful jutsus. Kurama was simply watching the show from his host's body. The last time he saw that wooden thing, the statue picked him up like some rag doll. "Jurioten, gravity release," Naruto said, pointing his right hand into the air. Purple chakra started swirling in his hand. Moments later a pitch-black sphere formed on his palm, the size of a football. Around the sphere, series of white rings started appearing, orbiting the black sphere. The rings started aligning themselves into a one disc-like shape around the orb. It seemed that Naruto had a black planet in his hand with planetary rings around it, either that or a black hole. "Dai Raisin Ringu, Great Spiraling Ring," Naruto said. He released his jutsu, who simply levitated, heading straight for the statue. The moment the black sphere touched the wooden statue, all hell broke loose. The training ground exploded in a maelstrom of blackness. Fierce winds raged on, pulling everything towards the black sphere. Piece by piece, Hashirama's wooden statue started disintegrating and was simply absorbed into the black hole. Any strike that the statue might do was simply redirected and pulled into the sphere's gravitation pull. Mito had her eyes widened at the magnitude of the jutsu. She gawked as the barrier in front of her seemed to stretch towards the black hole. Not even 1 second later, the barrier fell as the black tornado raged on in the battlegrounds. Trees were uprooted and huge chunks of earth were simply turned to dust to the gravity pull of the jutsu. Even the clouds swirled towards the epicenter of the jutsu. Every single spectator was hanging for dear life. They bolted away the moment they saw Naruto started their jutsu and, even thought they were almost a mile away, they could still feel the pull. The jutsu started expanding and quickly growing in size, eating away the terrain. Suddenly, just like it had begun, the black vortex imploded and disappeared completely. Every spectator breathed down in relief as they regained their bearings and started approaching the battlefield. Someone had to tell those two to stop the battle, or they might accidentally level Konoha. If not for the barrier, a good chunk of Konoha might already be gone. "You unbelievable!" Now stuttered in shock at the devastation lying in front of her. The wooden statue was nowhere to be seen and the once green battleground was now nothing more than a crater, 100 meters deep. They spotted Naruto at the edge of the crater and made their way towards him. "And I thought I was strong, these two are on a whole different level," Now thought to herself in shock. Hashirama's skill with the wood element dwarfed even Fugaku's mastery. Mito started wearily. "Where is Hashirama?" Mito asked, worried as she didn't see or felt her husband anywhere on the battlegrounds. Naruto used his Kamei and simply dropped Hashirama on the ground, unconscious. "I had to warp him into my dimension, otherwise he wouldn't survive," Naruto said, and Mito thanked him, bending down to check up on Hashirama. "He really must have been pissed to fight you to the point he passed out." Minato chuckled while Naruto just shook his head. "It was better this way. Let him release his hate on me," Naruto said as he watched Tsunade arrive at the training field with an expression that promised pain. What? Tsunade had eyes bulging out at the state of the training ground, if it could be called that at this point. "What the hell were you thinking taking things to this level?" Tsunade roared while everyone cringed at the sound spike. "It had to be done," Naruto simply replied and gulped as Tsunade approached him. "You could have destroyed Konoha with your spar," Tsunade said, putting an emphasis of the word spar. "We know what we were doing, Bachan." "You worry too much," Naruto said, waving Tsunade's concern off. "I will even sweeten the deal," Naruto said, making Tsunade raise an eyebrow in surprise. "On Mayatan Inyang release?" Naruto said as his eyes turned silver and started glowing. "Jiken no Suna, Sands of Time," Naruto said, flexing his right arm towards the destroyed training ground. Everyone's jaw dropped as the training ground seemed to be reverting back to its initial state. The crater started filling itself with rock, trees were born out of nowhere and were rooted to the ground. As the crater closed, a vast sea of grass filled the grounds. The training grounds were back as if nothing had happened to begin with. Amazing! Now breathed out as she watched everything revert back. Such mastery of yin and yang release, Itachi thought to himself, analyzing Naruto to the detail. He had just used the rawest form of chakra manipulation and yet, he seemed normal, like said jutsu was just another one. To him, perhaps it is, Itachi mused and thought. There you go. All back to normal, Naruto said, and Tsunade only nodded dumbly as she heard the birds chirping in the trees. Maybe I had too much sake already, Tsunade thought to herself as she turned around and simply walked towards her office. That must be it, Tsunade thought, confirming her beliefs. What about him? Tobirama asked, pointing towards his passed-out brother, lying on the floor. He's just unconscious. I will take him home and let him cool off, Mito said, holstering her husband and disappearing in a shunshin. Later that day, every Konoha civilian was running like wild chickens when they saw that huge black tornado rise on the horizon, but still close to the village. They thought another Bijou was about to attack their home once again. Everyone breathed in relief when the black thing disappeared and everything returned to normal. Say, can we talk? Nao asked as she approached Hinata. Everyone was gathered around in the Senju compound. Hinata rose an eyebrow in interest when she saw Uchiha Nao approaching. Things had been a little rocky between the two ever since Nao started living there as well. Sure, Hinata replied, not really sure what else to say. Hinata watched as Nao nervously approached and sat beside her. Nao fidgeted with her fingers, not sure where to begin. Both of them just sat down in awkward silence. Sorry, Nao said just above a whisper. Nao didn't know why she couldn't apologize to Hinata. It's not like she did anything wrong, well, except for trying to kill her. Come again? Hinata asked as she didn't understand what Nao had said. Sorry for trying to kill you, Now said, looking down and avoiding Hinata's eyes. Hinata just smiled and turned towards Now. Okay, Hinata replied and Now did a double back. What? Now asked, surprised by her reaction. Just like that? You said you were sorry and you already helped us, so no harm done. Besides, everyone deserves a second chance. Hinata replied, smiling. Now was suddenly so overjoyed that she jumped forward and hugged Hinata with all her might. This is awkward, Hinata thought to herself when she heard sniffling sounds coming from Now. Are you alright? Hinata asked with concern in her voice. She never expected Now of all people to cry on her shoulder. Now always seemed like nothing ever affected her. Why yes, thank you, Now said, breaking the hug and cleaning her red and puffy eyes. It's just, my life was a nightmare ever since I was born. My parents died when I was still young. I was only 4 years old and I can barely remember their faces. My sister did the best she could to take care of me, but it wasn't the same, Now began, looking at the ground while Hinata just listened. I didn't want to let them down, and I just trained and trained to be the best, to make them proud. I never had any friends at the academy since I was so engrossed on being a shinobi. The only kid that would even come close to me was Itachi-kun. I was overjoyed when we both graduated from the academy at the same time and got into the same team together, Now said, smiling fondly at her memories. We both belonged to the Uchiha clan, but I only met him at the academy. He was the son of the clan head and I was just another random Uchiha. I walked through the compound's walls and I felt like I was invisible to everyone else. No one seemed to care about me. Yet, Itachi treated me like a normal person. Those 3 years were the best I ever had. I finally had a friend in Itachi. He always kept to himself, but I managed to get a few smiles from him from time to time, Now said, and Hinata chuckled softly. We grew like friends and rivals at the same time. We both wanted to grow strong and we pushed each other, sparring almost daily. Eventually we took the Chunin exams together, and we both aced it. The bastard managed to win against me in the last round, thought I left him with a few good bruises, Now said, pouting softly. Then everything went downside again. Itachi was recruited into ANBU 6 months later, and I was left all alone again. My sister was often on long-term missions and I did what I did best. I drowned myself in training once again. The years went by and eventually I was promoted to Jounin. Sometimes I caught glimpses of Itachi at the compound, but for some reason he always disappeared, like he wanted to push me away. I only understood why he did it when Fugaku told us the plan of escape Konoha. Itachi had been keeping his distance from me so he could more easily do his mission. Every member of the clan was replaced by a clone, and I watched as Itachi slaughtered everyone. He was branded as a traitor and left Konoha to live as a missing shinobi. I could clearly see the pain he was in when he finished his deed. I wanted to find him and tell him that he didn't kill anyone, but Fugaku never let me. Just 2 years after we left Konoha, my sister died and I was left completely alone. Even worse is that we were in the middle of the civil war in Kiri. A war that Fugaku himself had started to weaken the Mist Village. I was alone for years, going on missions after missions, coming home exhausted only to fall asleep immediately. The next day, another mission would be ready for me to take. I kept doing missions and I grew stronger as my eyes developed, awakening new powers. Until I was given that mission in Kiri where I met you, Now said, sighing. It was just another mission for me. One of so many I had already did before. But I lost. Now chuckled. That was my wake-up call. You opened my eyes and I began training once again in the hopes we would meet again and I could repay the favor. After the whole Kiri fiasco, the Uchiha clan was forced out of Kiri with the rebels taking control over the village. We were relocated and a few weeks later I was given another mission. To blow up Konoha's academy and kill everyone inside. Now said, and Hinata gasped. I did come to Konoha to do the mission. Now said, and Hinata was shocked that Now would even consider such thing. We even crossed paths in the middle of the street. Now chuckled slowly, and Hinata remembered that event when she had felt some familiar chakra. I infiltrated the academy and was walking through the halls when I heard someone named Irika giving a lecture on the Hai no Ishi, Will of Fire. Now said, and Hinata chuckled inwardly. Of course it had to be Irika lecturing the Will of Fire. He said that everyone in Konoha was like a big family. Everyone took care and protected each other. I wanted to believe in that so much since I never had nothing like that after my parents died. I chose not to complete the mission and returned to give Fugaku the news. It was then that I learned that it was him that killed my sister, Now said, gritting her teeth. I thought my sister died when we swapped eyes and I blamed myself for it. I wanted power so much that I forced my sister to trade eyes and she paid the price. But it was Fugaku all along. He killed her because she wouldn't follow his orders anymore. I got so mad. Fugaku had taken the last person I had in my life. I fought him to avenge my sister, but I was defeated and left to die. But Itachi of all people found me and brought me here, to my new home. Nao said, smiling. I just don't want to be alone anymore, Nao said, and Hinata quickly hugged her again. We are not alone anymore, Nao-chan, Hinata said as Nao's eyes began watering again. You have a new family now and you have Itachi back again, Hinata said, and both split apart. Thank you, Nao said, smiling. Nao gave her a real smile, like she hadn't smiled like that in years. Say, Hinata began, and Nao focused on her. Have you confessed to Itachi yet? Hinata asked, and Nao blushed, looking away. Hinata just giggled at her newest friend, easing the ambient. And no, Nao stuttered out her answer. Why not? Hinata asked, confused. What if he doesn't like me? Nao asked slowly. She couldn't handle rejection right now. He was willing to beg to Naruto to save you, Hinata replied, smiling, and Nao was surprised. Itachi might have not inherited his clan's arrogance, but he had pride on his own way, and for him to be willing to beg so that she be saved. You think he likes me? Nao asked, slightly blushing. She felt like she was a schoolgirl again. Like she had felt when she told her older sister she liked Itachi, a few years ago. I know he does, Hinata said, and Nao nodded. What should I do? Nao asked, panicking and bringing her hands to her warm cheeks. She never had any female friends to talk about things like this. And talking to her older sister wasn't exactly the same thing. This is what you will do, Hinata said, and she whispered into Nao's ears. With Naruto and Itachi were eating peacefully together at the kitchen when Itachi suddenly shivered. You alright? Naruto asked when he noticed Itachi suddenly shift uncomfortably in his chair. I feel like something bad is about to happen, Itachi said, making Naruto raise an eyebrow. Suddenly the kitchen's door opened and both Hinata and Nao walked in, giggling like crazy. That can't be a good thing, both Naruto and Itachi thought to themselves, gulping as they watched the two girls approach. Up, boys, Hinata said, and both Naruto and Itachi rose from the table. Hinata's voice didn't left much margin for disagreement. Now Nao-chan, Hinata said, getting her attention. Activate your Sharingan and do as I, Hinata said, and walked forward until she was face to face with Naruto, who was wondering where this was going. Nao nodded as her eyes changed into blood red as she focused solely on Hinata. Hinata looked Naruto dead in the eyes as she cutely bit her bottom lip in anticipation. Hinata reached for Naruto with her hand, brushing his golden hair out of the way, her hand softly caressing his right cheek, getting a small purr due to his sensitive whiskers. Hinata smiled as she wrapped her arms around his neck and felt Naruto's own arms wrapping themselves around her waist, pulling her closer. Hinata could feel his hot breath. They were but an inch apart. Of course, ramen, Hinata thought to herself, smelling his breath. She leaned in, closer and closer until their lips grazed together. Hinata looked Naruto in the eyes as she closed her own. She leaned in firmly yet seductively, and their lips met. Hinata could feel Naruto's quick inhale, pulling air from her lungs. Naruto pulled her closer, holding her tightly, feeling the race of her heart, the softness of her lips, and her intoxicating smell. Hinata had completely forgotten about Nao, as both of them were in their own world. Their lips started pulling apart, but both remained in each other's arms. Their breathing came out in short and in quick gasps as the world around them began to slowly come back into focus. Wow! Naruto breathed out while Hinata just hummed in his chest, until she remembered the purpose of all of this. Cough. Hinata cleared her throat, trying to clear the ambient after such public display of affection. Thumb. Both Uchihas fell to the floor with a small trail of blood on their noses. Those two are made for each other, Naruto replied, chuckling. Yes, they are. Kukukuku, can you picture the awkward position they will wake up? Hinata chuckled evilly as she eyed both unconscious Uchihas on the ground, with Nao lying on top of Itachi. Naruto looked down at his waist. Then he looked at Hinata, who raised an eyebrow, and finally he looked back to his steaming bowl of ramen. Having decided on his choice, he took Hinata's hand and dragged her away. Where are we going? Hinata asked, confused as she was being led by Naruto somewhere. We are going to have sex, Naruto simply said. Okay? Hinata replied, confused, while Naruto nodded his head. You can't kiss me like that and not take responsibility. Next day, Hokage's office. Thank you all for coming, Tsunade said as she looked at the 5 shinobi in front of her. Senju Naruto, Senju Hinata, Tenten, Naruto Shikamaru, and finally Rock Lee. All 5 chunins were standing in perfect stance in front of their leader. Yesterday I received a letter from Kumo with a very interesting proposal, Tsunade cryptically said, raising a few eyebrows and a particular brushy one. Kumo sent us a letter inviting us for the Jounin exams as they decided to host them, Tsunade said, and Naruto was surprised. I've never heard of Jounin exams. Are they like the Chunin exams? Naruto asked curious, and Tsunade smirked. The Jounin exams is a very special event, even more than the Chunin exams. The Jounin exams are only hosted once in every 5 years and only when there have been long times of peace, Tsunade informed, and Naruto nodded his head. It's been almost 20 years since the end of the Third Great Ninja War, and Kumo decided to host this event and sent us a letter inviting us. While these exams might seem like any others, I assure they are not. Only the strongest of the Chunins are sent into these exams. The contestants are the strongest and most influential of each village, and most likely, they will occupy positions of power later on, Tsunade explained, and everyone nodded, convinced to do their best in the exams. Suits you well, Naruto. Tenten began, drawing Naruto's attention to her. You were always the one shouting about becoming Hokage. Maybe, Naruto replied, and everyone did a double take. Maybe? Hinata asked in disbelief. You gave up on being Hokage? Hinata asked, shocked. She never even suspected such thing. Not gave up per se, I just realized the truth, Naruto began, and everyone listened. At first I wanted to be Hokage so that everyone would acknowledge me, but I already have that. Then I wanted to be Hokage to protect the whole village, and I realized the truth when I went to the mist. I don't need to be Hokage to protect everyone I care for. Being Hokage is just a bonus, really. I have everything I need right now. I'm respected and acknowledged. I have friends, family, and my beautiful wife, Naruto said, and everyone just stared at him. What happened to the blonde loudmouth that always shouted about being Hokage back at the academy? What do you know? The brat is growing up. Tsunade smiled to herself. Hinata smiled since she felt the exact same way. After being expelled from her clan, she gained her mother back, a new family, and now she had her husband. My husband. Hinata thought to herself, giggling in her mind and bringing her hands to her cheeks in her mind. Anyway, I chose 2 3-man teams. First team will be Tenten, Rock Lee, and Naruto Shikamaru, and the last team was Senju Naruto, Senju Hinata, and a third member who will be arriving shortly, Tsunade explained. Osage, I shall show Kumo the flames of youth. Lee suddenly shouted with fire burning in his eyes. Naruto Kun, I challenge you. Lee roared, pumping his fists and making Naruto take a step back. How about? No, Naruto said. Damn you, Naruto-kun, and your hip ways, Lee said, crying anime tears. Everyone just chuckled at their antics. Troublesome, Shikamaru muttered beneath his breath. So our third member is Shino-kun? Hinata asked, but Tsunade shook her head in denial. I offered him the chance to participate and bring back teammate, but he's busy with his clan, Tsunade said, and Hinata nodded. It was a shame, it had been a while since she has seen Shino. Only us? Naruto rhetorically asked. I thought more of our age group would want to participate, Naruto said in retrospect. Niji is already a Jounin, so he was already out. Temari, Kankuro, and Ino became full-time apprentices under Anko and Ibiki in the interrogation and torture department. Gaara said something about working with Fu and their bijus. Chuji, Kiba, and Shino were busy with their clans. You were all that remained, Tsunade explained, putting down the sheets. Don't worry, Bachan, we will kick some ass, Naruto said, giving her a thumbs up and making her shake her head. Shikamaru, Tenten, Lee, you are dismissed. Naruto-chan and Hinata-chan, you stay and wait for the third member, Tsunade said, making Naruto glare at her. He could hear Tenten giggling all the way out at Naruto's nickname. When Naruto was alone in the office with Tsunade and Hinata, he turned to his grandmother. You have any more intel on the Akatsuki movements? Naruto asked. He felt the Umbu's chakra signature, and they were ones he trusted. Jiraiya has his spy network after their members, but they are hard to track down. They are all S-rank shinobi, you know? Tsunade asked, and Naruto nodded, sighing. They already have 5 of the 9 bijus. Only the Hachibi from Kumo, me, Gaara, and Fu remain, Naruto said, and Tsunade raised an eyebrow. How do you know that? Tsunade asked, curious. I'm connected to the statue and I can feel their chakra inside it. I would summon the statue and release them, but I want to destroy their Rinnegan first. Naruto explained, and Tsunade nodded. They will have to wait, Tsunade said, until she remembered something. About your new teammate. Tsunade began getting the attention of both Naruto and Hinata. Keep an eye on him, Tsunade advised, and both of them were surprised by such expression. Why? Naruto wondered. He's from Root. He was appointed by Danzo to, and I quote, protect the Senju heir and Kyuubi Jinchuriki at all costs, Tsunade said. Interesting. Naruto hummed, scratching his chin. Danzo knows I can handle myself, Naruto said. I wonder what you are up to now, Naruto added, thinking about the one-eyed mummy. Knock knock, enter, Tsunade said, raising from her chair as the door opened. Both Naruto and Hinata turned around to see what would be the third member of their team to the Jounin exams. He had short, black hair, and black eyes which contrasts with his very pale skin. He carried a small backpack with his brush, scrolls, and ninja ink in it. He wore a short black jacket with red straps. He also carried a tipless tanto on his back. The rest of his outfit consisted of a high-collared midriff shirt, black pants, shinobi sandals and gloves with his index and thumb fingers exposed, most likely to facilitate the use of his drawing-based techniques. Welcome, Sai, Tsunade said, greeting the newcomer and approaching him. This is my grandson Naruto-chan and my apprentice Hinata-chan. Tsunade and Naruto's eyes twitched at his name once again. It seemed that he would live with him to the rest of his life. Sai walked in with a neutral face, without a care in the world. Hokage-sama, Senju-sama, Hinata-sama, Sai said, slightly bowing his head. Nothing of that, Sai-kun. Hinata waved off the formal greetings, getting a smile from the boy. Pleasure to meet you, Sai said, shaking Hinata's open hand. Ugly, everything froze after that comment. Even the hand-shaking motion came to a halt as everyone blinked to try and come up with another possible and logic word that might have been mistaken for. In the end, no one thought of any plausible alternative, and Hinata immediately retracted his hand. On second thought, Hinata-sama seems good, Hinata replied with her eyes twitching, while Naruto on the other hand was trying to suppress a laugh, much to her irritation. You're lucky she isn't violent, otherwise you would already be buried, Naruto thought to himself, chuckling. And of course the Senju heir. A pleasure, Sai said, shaking Naruto's hand as well. Dickless, now Hinata wasn't violent, but Naruto did have short fuse. Naruto's eyes twitched as his Sharingan almost came to life. Sai, Tsunade called, making him turn and give her the same smile. Do you want to die? Tsunade rhetorically asked. Because that is how you die, Tsunade said, nodding her head while Hinata held Naruto back from frying Sai. Now that the introductions are over, Tsunade said, chuckling weakly, with Naruto and Hinata giving Sai side looks. The exams are in 2 weeks. I will have Blue and Green as your Jounin senseis to the exams, Tsunade said, and threw Naruto a knowing look. With the Akatsuki out there, a wandering Jinchuriki was like a free piece of meat. Although Naruto could take care of himself. Rendezvous tomorrow at dawn, Tsunade said, and everyone left. Tsunade sat down at her desk and went to pick up her cup of sake when the cup suddenly cracked. I have a bad feeling about all this, Tsunade thought to herself, gulping down the sake and burying down her superstitions. Next day, Konoha's gates. Are you all ready? Blue, Tobirama, asked towards the 6 shinobi in front of him. Hinata, Naruto, and Sai formed one team, while Shikamaru, Lee, and Tenten were the other one. Accompanying the 2 teams was the Blue Dragon, Tobirama, and the Green Dragon, Hashirama. And you are? Tenten asked the masked man. I will be acting as your Jounin sensei during the exams while Blue takes Naruto's team, Green replied. What is up with the mask? Tenten asked, suspicious. The mask serves its purpose. Our identity is an S-class secret only known to the Hokage and our group, Blue explained, and Tenten hummed in thought. I heard about the dragons of Konoha. They are supposed to be this elite group that takes only the most dangerous and difficult missions for our village. They report only to the Hokage, Tenten said. Troublesome, just ask Naruto. He's the leader of the group and one of the highest ranking officers in the village, even higher than the Umbu commander, Shikamaru explained, making Tenten eyes pop in surprise. Her neck snapped towards Naruto so fast that it nearly broke. Is he serious? Tenten asked, pointing towards Naruto with her arms shaking. He is, Naruto simply replied. Naruto flexed his arms around his silver armor. On his back was his trusted fan, and on his Kamui dimension, his staff. On his wrists, several storage seals with kunais, shuriken, the works. In fact, both Naruto and Hinata were in their standard dragon uniform. You may say that they grew attached to it, as it provides so much more armor than regular chainmail. So, who is Blue? Tenten asked. Sorry, Tenten's class secret. Naruto replied, and Tenten pouted. Whistle Blue placed 2 fingers on his mouth and took a deep breath. Blue unleashed a loud whistle that rang across the gates of Konoha and high into the skies. RAWR4's dragons suddenly dropped from the cloud banks and plummeted towards the ground at neck-breaking speeds. As they arrived near the ground, they flapped their wings, creating a cloud of dust and blocking everyone's view. They landed on their respective owners' shoulders. You called? Blue Dragon asked. Tenten's jaw dropped at the creature standing on his shoulder. Blue's scales and eyes were the color of sapphires, an intense blue that refracted the light. His talons and spikes on his neck, back, and tail were a dull blue. Like all dragons, he had white, sharp, knife-like, meat-shearing teeth. His body stature could be inferred as very aerodynamic and built for flying. A/N. Check profile for picture of all dragons. Keep your eyes open in the sky for possible ambushes. Blue Tobirama said as the dragons left their owners and returned to where they belonged, the skies. Is that a dragon? Tenten asked in disbelief. She had only heard of dragons on books and fairy tales. But to see one here, alive and talking. Perks of the group. Blue Tobirama said, smirking behind his mask while Tenten just pouted. The little thing, although had a feral look, looked adorable to her. Let's get on with this, shall we? Green Hashirama grumbled as everyone nodded and left the gates, walking towards Kumo, where the Jounin exams would take place. Danzo-sama will want to know about this, Sai thought to himself, watching the dragons disappear in the sky, middle of the road. Still grumpy about it? Naruto asked towards Green, who remained silent, making Naruto sigh towards him. He didn't know what else to do. Sure, Hashirama was angry at Naruto's decision to wipe out the Uchiha clan, but he should have understood. I don't understand why you had to wipe out the whole clan, Green said, looking at the sky. I wasn't even a battle to begin with. It was a slaughter. Maybe you are too blind to see it. Blue Tobirama said, making Green Hashirama turn towards his younger brother. You grew up with Madara as a brother of sorts. Maybe you are too close to his clan to make the right calls, and we both know that has cost us back in the days, Blue said while Green sighed. Madara? Shikamaru thought to himself, now paying attention to the conversation. Both Naruto and Hinata caught Tobirama's reference to Madara, but let it slip as no one seemed to take note of it with the exception of Shikamaru, which opened a single eye. You are too soft, brother, Blue said, sighing. Why are you so against it? You want peace, don't you? Naruto asked in a serious voice. Naruto knew how much Hashirama had struggled to find peace, and yet he wasn't able to make sacrifices. But not at the cost of lives, Green replied. And that is why you never reached it, Naruto simply answered. That's cold, Green said, but Naruto disagreed. Realistic, Naruto countered. There is only one answer to peace, and some can't be in the new world, Naruto explained while Green sighed. He's right, you know, Shikamaru rhetorically asked, and everyone turned towards him, surprised to see him talk of all people. Troublesome, one bad seed can wreck a whole crop. Shikamaru yawned as he began cloud watching again. I'll refrain from judging until later on, Green said. So we are good? Naruto asked, and Green nodded, making Naruto grin. I still want a dragon. Tenten pouted, making Naruto chuckle. Kumobikure, the hidden village of the Lightning Country, founded by the very first Raikage. The village is located in a range of tall mountains, and is literally hidden in the clouds. The Raikage works in a large blue structure built into the tallest mountain. The mountains provide a natural defense against any incursion, as their shinobi have higher ground. This place hasn't changed one bit, Green said as he looked around the village. The village's structure was exactly how he remembered it. You speak as someone who hasn't come here in many years, yet you don't seem that old, Shikamaru lazily pointed out. Stop overanalyzing every word I say, it's freaking me out, Green said, annoyed by the Nara's behavior. What he didn't know was that both Blue and Green had sparked Shikamaru's curiosity, and that was never a good thing on a Nara. Hi, Shikamaru waved him off as he yawned loudly. Damn kids, Green thought to himself, crossing his arms in surrender. Yosh, Lee yelled with fire in his eyes. Let's show them the flam dash. Asterisk smack asterisk Lee dropped to the ground as Blue had hit his neck, effectively knocking him out. What did you do to Lee? Tenten yelled as she rushed her fallen teammate. He was loud and annoying, and the exams only start in 2 days, Blue said and walked off into his room at the hotel. Everyone had their own separate room with Naruto and Hinata sharing their own. 2 days later. First exams of the Jounin exams begin. Chapter 54, First Stage. Steps were heard echoing along a dark corridor. The walls were made completely out of dark stone, and it was almost pitch black if not for a couple of torches that provided some much-needed light. The person walked calmly through the halls, completely undisturbed by some background noises that could be heard. The person stepped forward into some light, allowing some features to be displayed. The man appeared as a frail, old man, who was walking with a cane in his left hand. He had black, shaggy hair, and his right eye was bandaged. He has had an X-shaped scar on his chin ever since his youth. He wore a white shirt, with a black or dark gray robe over the top of it covering from his feet to just over his right shoulder. The robe conceals his right arm, which was bandaged and covered with 3 big golden braces. The man kept walking forward until he reached what resembled a reception desk. It seemed somewhat strange to find a reception desk in what clearly resembled catacombs, but he didn't seem surprised. Danzo-sama, what can I do for you? The man behind the desk asked, bowing to the elder. I wish to speak with one of the inmates, Danzo simply said in a monotone voice. Of course. Which one? The receptionist asked, and Danzo approached him, whispering the inmate's name. I'm afraid that he's under special circumstances. Hokage-sama has forbidden any visitor, the receptionist explained weakly. I trust that won't be a problem, right? Danzo asked, his voice betraying none of his displeasure. Although his voice was calm, it was far enough to scare the poor receptionist to death. Of course not. Right this way, the receptionist said, gulping and leading Danzo towards the right cell. Here we are, the man said, and Danzo stepped forward, peering into the cell. Leave us, Danzo ordered, and the receptionist quickly obeyed, proceeding to bolt from there. Danzo shifted his attention back to the man inside the cell. The man was clad in simple gray jumpsuit. The particular thing about this man was that he was missing his right arm. What pitiful state you're in, Hayashi, Danzo said, and the man inside the cell opened his eyes to reveal the Byakugan. Come to gloat, Danzo? Hayashi asked weakly. He was a broken man. Everything he ever fought for had been stolen from his hands. Hardly, Danzo replied before taking a good look at him. Hayashi was huddled in the corner, concealed by the shadows. I've come with an offer, Danzo explained. Really? Hayashi asked suspiciously. And what could you possibly offer me? Hayashi asked, somewhat amused by the man's attempts. You should be more grateful. Tsunade wanted to ship you away to the blood prison, Danzo said, and shiver ran down Hayashi's spine. As to my offer, how about your clan back and justice against those who put you in here? Danzo offered, but was met with laugh. Hayashi was laughing loud like some crazy man. You are delusional, Danzo. How exactly do you wish to accomplish such feat? Hayashi asked, amused. You still have faithful followers from the main house that occupy several positions of power in the village. All I ask is your and their cooperation, and in return I will give you your freedom and clan back. Danzo offered, and Hayashi was about to laugh again when he saw the serious face of Danzo. You are serious? Hayashi stated, surprised. I don't joke, Danzo replied, and Hayashi started thinking. What are you planning? Hayashi asked seriously. All the laughter and the amusement gone. I shall tell you if you agree to my terms, Danzo replied. I accept, Hayashi said, and Danzo nodded and simply turned around, flicking something over his shoulder towards Hayashi. What's this? Hayashi asked as he snatched the small ball. It seemed like a food pill. Your freedom, Danzo said, and walked out, leaving Hayashi to his choices. Hayashi lost sight of Danzo and returned his gaze back to the pill in his hand. Making his choice, he globed it with a shred of hesitation and waited for the effects. Hayashi's chest started warming up, and suddenly he clutched to his chest as pain shot through his body. Arghhhhhhhhhh, Hayashi screamed as he felt his chest tightening up, making it almost impossible to breathe. Several guards rushed towards Hayashi's cell, but they were too late and simply found him lying on the ground, completely unmoving. One of the guards opened the cell and crouched beside him. He's dead, the guard replied, checking his pulse. He took notice as to how his single hand was clutching to his chest. Most likely a heart attack. Inform the Hokage and take him away, the guard replied. Danzo smiled from the reception desk as he looked towards the receptionist, and his Sharingan glowed, erasing every evidence he ever stepped forth in the prison. Senju compound. Everything was rather quiet inside the Senju compound. It was to be expected since the loudest of the inhabitants, this being Naruto and Hashirama, had gone to Kumo. Naruto was going to participate in the upcoming Jounin exams while Hashirama and his brother Tobirama would pose as their senseis. The living room in the Senju compound was simple, outfitted with a couple of individual couches and two larger ones. A few plants in the corners and a couple of paintings in the walls made the room livelier. 3 bookcases were also nearby the wall, providing a couple of books for passing time to anyone that so wished. Some books were about the Senju clan, their history and deeds through the history, while others branched out from geography to general fiction. Jiraiya had been denied, rather painfully he might add if you ask him, his humble request to display his magnificent work on said bookshelf. Everyone in the compound was already of age, so having porn in the bookcase should be allowed. This were his thoughts when he approached his princess, who rewarded him with a well-placed, chakra-enhanced punch. At least Tsunade had allowed him to place his first novel, The Tale of the Utterly Gutsy Shinobi. So it wasn't all bad. Tsunade walked into the compound and simply made her way straight towards the living room. Her only thoughts were of plopping down on one of those soft couches and maybe take a nap, or something. It had been a frustrating day to say the least, and this time it wasn't paperwork that plagued her dreams. No, this time was the damn council meetings. At least she had the decency to not send a shadow clone in her stead. First, it was a request for further funding petition by the head nurse with both Shizen and Hinata's signatures on it. Hinata was smart enough to only sign it when she was away from the village. Shizen, however, wasn't so lucky and was on the receiving edge of a tired and pissed Senju. Next problem were those damned civilians always complaining about their rights. Tsunade shook her head, pushing away stressing thoughts as she entered the living room and was greeted with an interesting sight. She looked over to the couch where now was calmly sitting with Itachi's head on her lap. She was running her hands through his hair while Itachi had eyes his closed, enjoying the moment. My, Tsunade said with clear amusement, making both of them jump at the sound of her voice. They were so entranced with each other that they didn't sense her entering the room. Who would have thought that now would be the one to tame the great Itachi Uchiha? Tsunade said, chuckling. You are one to talk. Now snorted. Senju Tsunade, the legendary slug princess of Konoha, tamed by a pervert, now replied in amusement, making the Senju choke. You have something to say? Tsunade roared, making now jump from her couch and stare at Tsunade. Yes, I do, old hag. Now replied, smirking, sparks flying across their eyes. I was having such a good dream. Itachi thought to himself as she sat upright and watched Nao and Tsunade bicker until he decided that it was enough. And enough, Itachi's voice echoed through the room with enough authority to make both women flinch. Oh, Nao cooed with stars in her eyes as she rushed Itachi. I love it when you take charge, Nao said, hugging Itachi while Tsunade gaped like a fish out of water. I don't even want to know, Tsunade thought as she looked over to both Uchihas and then to another couch. You don't intend to cuddle or do any display of affection, right? Tsunade wondered. It was common sense to keep public displays of affection somewhat restrained, but Uchihas were strange people. You are safe, Hokage-sama, Itachi said while Nao pouted but remained by his side. You don't have to call me that in here, Itachi. Besides, officially you are still a missing shinobi, Tsunade explained, sighing in comfort as she plopped down in one of the soft couches. Respect is due where respect is due, Itachi simply replied in his traditional monotone voice. By the way, Tsunade started. What do you both intend to do now? Tsunade asked, curious. Honestly, I have no idea. I planned from the beginning to die at Sasuke's hands. I didn't count on living much longer than that because of my illness, Itachi said, and felt Nao grip his arm tighter. She didn't even want to consider losing Itachi. I have a proposition for both of you, Tsunade said, smiling. Proposition? Nao asked, confused. Yes, what is your favorite color? Tsunade asked, smirking while both Uchihas just stared at her like she was crazy. Kumo saying that Naruto was excited was an understatement. The man was downright thrilled. He had enough adrenaline pumping through his veins to kill a normal person. The reason for all this excitement? Dozens of competitors stood in his front. Naruto had counted at least 20 different forehead protectors, some from villages he had never even heard of. It was interesting to say the least. While these exams were non-traditional as they were only hosted every 5 years, the amount of competition was similar to that of Chunin exams. Jounin did get access to higher paying missions, so maybe that was the reason. Maybe it was the honor and fame of being Jounin, the elite of the village. On the other hand, Jounin missions were far more difficult and risky. Hinata was amused at Naruto's expression. Anymore, and he would be practically bouncing like some 5-year-old kid on a sugar rush. She was surprised when she saw the amount of competition. Tsunade did say this was a big event, even bigger than the Chunin exams, but Hinata had underestimated it. Her Byakugan flared as she did a quick checkup of the competition. Only after a quick glance she could accurately guess just whose would most likely pass the earlier stages of the exams. Judging by chakra levels alone, everyone seemed normal, with a few having bigger reserves, bearing high Jounin level. Although she and Naruto easily dwarfed anyone in there. She had big reserves, but Naruto's amount was insane. He was almost blinding to look at with her Byakugan focused on him. "I don't see what the excitement is all about," Kurama said from within his mind. "I sense no one of worth in here. It's not just about fighting powerful opponents, Kurama," Naruto explained. "Think about the jutsus we will see, the different taijutsu styles and weapons, and maybe some bloodlines." Naruto replied giddy while Kurama just sweat dropped. "It's starting," Hinata whispered, and Naruto quieted down almost immediately. His attention was drawn to the man walking into the stage. He was a fairly tall, dark-skinned man with a slightly bulbous nose, shaggy, white hair which covers his left eye. He wore a high-collared, sleeveless uniform with loose-fitting pants, bandages on his wrists, and the one strap over one shoulder flak jacket of a Kumogaku shinobi. He supported a bored look that reminded Naruto of Kakashi. "I've seen him somewhere," Naruto muttered to himself. "He was the Raikage's bodyguard during our Chunin exams," Hinata said. "I remember him now. I wonder how everyone else is doing around here," Naruto said out loud, but was shushed by Hinata as Darui was about to speak. "My name is Darui and I'm in charge of the Jounin exams. I will be explaining how the exams will work, so pay attention as I will only say this once," Darui said, and everyone quieted down. Much like the Chunin exams, these exams will be divided into 3 sections. In the first stage we will be an evaluation of personal and team skills in different areas. The second stage will an objective-driven race with competitive action between the teams. The third and final stage will be a tournament much like the Chunin exams. Any questions? What are the promotion specifications? Some shinobi yelled from the crowd. Only participants that reach the third stage are eligible for promotion, Darui explained. Any more questions? Darui asked, but was met with silence. Very well, proceed to the barracks for testing and good luck to all of you, Darui ordered, and watched as the crowd quickly dissipated into empty grounds. At the barracks, Naruto's team arrived at the testing grounds where the first stage was taking place. He could feel chakra being unleashed in waves and sound of metal clashing. He figured it was some kind of physical tests. What a drag! This was the random thought of the person standing behind the counter at the barracks. She seemed to be scribbling something in some piece of paper, and had an obvious bored look. They put me, a Jounin, doing this, the red-haired thought to herself, and sighed when she felt another team approach. State origin, team number and members, the red-haired female asked, not even bothering to raise her head to see the contestants. Konoha, team number 24, members, Senju Hinata, Senju Naruto and Sai, Hinata said, and the red-haired female instantly rose her head to see Hinata's long dark blue hair and her white eyes. Hinata, the red-haired female said, surprised to see her. Karui? Hinata asked in surprise. Haven't seen since the Chunin exams, Hinata said, and Karui nodded. And you brought Naruto as well, Karui said, greeting the blonde who waved. So, how's life around here? Hinata asked while Naruto sat on the ground, knowing very well where this was going. Sai looked at him with a puzzled expression. You'll see, Naruto muttered and pointed towards Hinata and Karui, who were already deep into their conversation. They were talking like they were old friends. Sorry about Yujuto-chan though, Hinata said, and Karui gritted her teeth. Those zombie bastards will taste the tip of my blade, Karui snarled, and Naruto rose an eyebrow. If you are talking about Kakuza and Haiden, then it's too late. I've already reduced them to ash, Naruto said, and Karui was surprised to hear that they have both been killed. You killed them? Karui was skeptical, but Naruto nodded nonetheless. She wanted to be the one to exact revenge and justice on them, but Naruto had gotten to them first. In the end, it didn't matter, they got what they deserved. Serves them right for taking Yujito-chan, thank you. Karui thanked Naruto, knowing that Yujito had been avenged. Anyways, Karui said as she started writing the details in her notebook and took a small disc with a number on it. Here is your number. Wait for your turn and good luck, see you around. Hinata replied, and Naruto's team walked off and into the testing grounds. Testing grounds. Naruto, Hinata, and Sai entered through the stone's gates and arrived at some huge arena. There are huge stones walls surrounding the earth grounds. To Naruto's left there was what seemed to an obstacle course. Behind that was a small forest, and Naruto coursed tons of booby traps spread all around the trees and ground. Welcome, the examiner said as the three contents stopped near him. The first stage of these exams consists of an advanced obstacle course, testing you in speed and strength. Additionally, you will be tested in taijutsu, genjutsu, ninjutsu, and any other categories you choose for additional points. The final part will be a team exercise which consists in infiltrating an outpost located in that forest. The examiner explained, pointing towards the small forest not too far away. Teams with highest points will proceed to the second stage. Sounds simple enough, Hinata said, and Naruto nodded. Which additional categories are available? Sai asked with his smiling face, which seemed to scare the crap out of the examiner. Anything really. I myself am well versed in taijutsu, ninjutsu, and genjutsu. Any other categories will be tested by my comrades, the examiner explained, and Sai nodded. Senjin Naruto, the examiner called, and Naruto stepped forward. Your objective is to go through the obstacle course, collect a small flag at the end, and return as fast as you can. Jutsus and/or chakra enhancement are strictly forbidden. A censor is monitoring these evaluations, and any infraction means instant failure of the exams, understood? The examiner warned, and Naruto nodded. When you're ready, the examiner said, and Naruto stepped into the line. He did a quick overlook of the obstacle course, and seemed pretty straightforward. Naruto bent slightly forward, bending his knees and waiting for the examiner's signal. He shifted his attention to some blonde-haired shinobi on the right side with his eyes closed and making ram seal. Start, the examiner said. When the sound of timer's button hit Naruto's ears, he shot forward, leaving a dust trail behind. A split second after start, and Naruto had already arrived at the first obstacle, a simple wooden horizontal bar, raised 1.5 meters from the ground and followed by 3 more in quick succession. Naruto jumped forward, like a lion pouncing on his target. He placed both hands in the wooden bar for support. He coiled his arms and propelled forward using his arms. Having calculated the required amount of strength, he landed right past the 4 wooden bars, concluding the first obstacle in a single movement. Time 1:5 seconds. Naruto didn't raise to his proper height before landing. He coiled himself again and blurred forward. His armor cringing, its metal plates flapping together with each step he took. Naruto raised his head slightly as he spotted his next obstacle, a solid, 10 feet high wooden wall that he assumed he had to climb. Naruto made a small push and jumped far enough for his right hand to latch itself at the top. The examiner's jaw dropped when Naruto lifted himself up with a single arm. Even the censor was surprised by the amount of strength displayed. Raising himself completely from the air, with a single arm and without proper grip, was nothing too easy to accomplish. Naruto grinned as he landed on the other side of the wall and proceeded. Time 3 seconds. Naruto arrived at some vertical ladders, but these were made of rope instead of solid wood. Not thinking much about it, Naruto jumped as high as he could and latched himself into the ropes, proceeding to climb up without any difficulties. His coordination was perfect. Time 6 seconds. As Naruto arrived at the top, he spotted long, circular wooden beams, almost as large as tree trunks, leading down into the ground level. Naruto carefully analyzed the round and slippery surface, and any slip-up would mean falling hard into the ground. Having this in his mind, he quickly ran down and arrived at the final obstacle. The final obstacle was nothing but a single rope that Naruto had to climb vertically. Naruto jumped into the rope and began to easily climb it up. He was certainly strong enough to lift his own body weight with a single hand. He arrived at the top and snatched the flag he needed before sliding down the rope and landing on the ground. Time 7-8 seconds. With the flag in his position, the final piece of this obstacle course was a simple race to the point of origin, without needing to go through the obstacles again. Naruto bent and shot forward, leaving a cloud of dust. Every step he took, the ground would crack from the strength he put behind each step. Naruto didn't stop near the examiner, and simply continued running at full speed, until he crossed the examiner. He came to halt, leaving the dust trail behind him as he finished the obstacle course. Cough cough, the examiner waved his hands wildly to clear the dust cloud. Final time 9.5 seconds. Congratulations, Naruto-san, you just moved to the second spot, the examiner said, pointing towards the electronic board, where Naruto's name ranked second in the obstacle course with 9.5 seconds, only surpassed by Rock Lee with 8 seconds. Can't say I'm surprised. The guy is insane with his workout, Naruto thought to himself. Looks like hard work does beat a genius. Naruto chuckled out loud. I don't see the genius, Hinata said with a straight face. Hinata-chan, Naruto whined while Hinata giggled at his antics. Sai simply observed the interaction between the couple. They certainly weren't your usual married couple. Sai, Naruto said, and Sai turned to Naruto, making a shiver run up his spine. Enough with that smile, it's freaking me out. It feels like you are going to kill me in my sleep, Naruto said, and Sai dropped in smile, getting a neutral face. Naruto sighed somewhat and walked to the examiner's side and allowed Sai and Hinata to take their turn. Hinata did her best but had the downside of most of her strength being by chakra enhancement. Still, she managed to easily secure 5th spot with Sai taking the 10th place. Having completed the first exam of the first stage, the examiner led them towards some testing dummies for the taijutsu test. Second part of this exam is to go through the dummies, while performing your taijutsu katas as fast as you can. State your taijutsu style for reference, the examiner said, and Hinata stepped forward this time. Gentle fist taijutsu style, Hinata said, and the examiner happily wrote it down, stepping aside as Hinata stepped forward. She looked around them, counting around 5 dummies who were about to receive a very cruel punishment. Is chakra allowed now? Hinata asked, and the examiner nodded. When you're ready, the examiner said, and clicked on his timer. Hinata disappeared from her position and began running through her katas. She didn't even seem to be touching with dummies. She did her katas with such grace that the proctor almost thought she was dancing. She appeared next to the examiner only a split second later, just in time to see all of the dummies crack at once. They burst into pieces and simply fell to the ground completely destroyed. Nothing bigger than half an arm had remained as the dummies seemed to have been severed in all joints. Amazing, the examiner said while Hinata just smiled at her success. She looked over to the scoreboard and watched as her name appeared in first place. Sai went next, and this time, Naruto's eyes were solely focused on him. Both Naruto and Hinata had read Sai's file, but it didn't say much besides that he had standard skills and used ink-style jutsus, whatever that was. The only thing Naruto ever used ink for was seals. Naruto's eyes narrowed at the style that Sai had employed. It was ruthless for lack of a better word. Each strike had a purpose behind. There were no feints or anything else. Every strike was either to cripple or kill the opponent. It was a bastardized version of the Anbu style, a far more deadly version. Naruto went next, and although his style wasn't as refined as Hinata's, he still got the job done, finishing in second. Next portion is Genjutsu, the examiner said, and Naruto nodded, his Sharingan blazing to life. Naruto displayed some of the Genjutsu he knew. It wasn't really his thing. Unlike Itachi, Naruto preferred to attack the enemy's body instead of his mind. The only Genjutsu he had actually even bothered to properly train was the Tsukuyomi so that he could awaken the Susanoo. But that didn't stop him from claiming the first spot as well. Just because he didn't like it, it didn't mean he wasn't good at it. Both Hinata and Sai went next, but they managed to score even lower than Naruto. He didn't blame them though. Genjutsu was such an unpopular area that the few that had decent control were already a threat. I mean, look at Itachi. He can defeat an enemy using only Genjutsu. He doesn't even need to move from his place. Last section of this evaluation before the team exercise is ninjutsu, the examiner said. Finally, the good part arrives, Naruto said, rubbing his hands together while the examiner was tempted to take a step back when he saw the crazy glint in his eyes. And it wasn't the Sharingan he had seen. Why yes, the examiner coughed into his hand to suppress his shiver. You need to display a few non-elemental jutsu along with at least 2 natures, the examiner said, and Naruto didn't even give the chance to Hinata or Sai to step forward. He was that excited. What's first? Naruto asked. You decide, the examiner replied, and was surprised when he saw a spinning ball of silver chakra in Naruto's hand. Rasengan, Naruto said, and the examiner nodded, writing something about excellent shape manipulation. Shadow Clone Jutsu, Naruto said, placing his fingers in a T sign. A single clone popped into life. Naruto looked at the examiner, and he nodded. Shadow Clone Explosion. The clone that Naruto created suddenly exploded, ripping a chunk of the ground. Very good. What are your chakra natures? The examiner asked. I have all 5 of them, Naruto said, and the examiner stopped writing to look at Naruto. The examiner blinked as Naruto simply nodded. Anyway, please perform some jutsus for a nature, the examiner said, and watched as Naruto performed a single horse hand seal. Katon Goka Mikyaku, Great Fire Annihilation. A barrage of fire was expunged from Naruto's mouth. It scorched the ground, decimating what little had remained from the previous wooden dummies. Why yes, excellent, the examiner replied weakly after witnessing the devastation. It seems fire nature is good. How about some lightning nature, and this time, keep it below S rank? The examiner said, and Naruto shrugged his shoulders but complied anyway. Raiton Rariyuden, Lightning Dragon. Naruto's hands sparkled with blue electricity as a dragon erupted from his palms. The dragon roared before blurring towards Naruto's target and exploded, leaving behind a crater and sparks flying everywhere. Very good, Naruto-san, the examiner said, and Naruto stepped away, looking at the scoreboard where his name had claimed the first spot, and with a very healthy lead above the competition. Hinata went next and claimed the second spot, just a few points behind Naruto. Sai, the examiner called, and Sai stepped forward. Both Naruto and Hinata focused their attention solely on the third members of their team. Sai was an enigma to say the least. He was always throwing around that creepy smile of his. He never engaged in conversation with them. Sai just sat there, watching them unrelentingly like some statue. Root shinobi were supposed to the ultimate soldiers. Trained from birth in the way of the shinobi, reduced to heaps of sweat with their training methods, hardened with blood and pain, they felt no fear, no regret, and no remorse. They were but tools to serve their master in his endeavors. They were prepared to lay down their lives for their master with hesitation whatsoever. Naruto was broken from his thoughts when he heard the proctor ask Sai to display his ninjutsu. Naruto raised an eyebrow as Sai sat on the ground and took a simple scroll, a brush, and a bottle of what Naruto figured to be ink. Sai slowly dipped his brush in the black ink and, in the blink of an eye, he had painted a lion on the scroll. Choji Giga, Super Beast Scroll. Sai made a single hand seal, and the drowned tiger on the scroll rose to life, jumping from it and landing on the ground. The tiger snarled at the proctor, who fell on his butt when he saw the painting come to life. He may be a shinobi, but not even he expected that. Good, the examiner said as he rose to his feet. He searched for the tiger, and found him eating the wooden dummies who were mangled by the tiger's vicious jaws. Sumi Bunshin no Jutsu Ink Clone, Sai said, and the tiger dispelled into a puddle of ink on the ground. The ink suddenly started moving, clustering together into a large pool. The ink pool started raising from the ground and taking the shape of Sai. Interesting, the proctor murmured to himself as he scribbled down on his board. So that's his ink jutsu. Both Hinata and Naruto thought at Sai's performance. His style surely was very dynamic and versatile, but his creation seemed somewhat fragile. Before we proceed to the team exercise, do you wish to be tested in anything else for extra points? The examiner asked, and everyone shook their heads in denial. Well, actually I do have another category I would like to be evaluated, Naruto suddenly said, stopping the protector in his tracks. Which is? Bojutsu Staff Arts, Naruto said, and Hinata was surprised that he would bring that up of everything else. She wondered why he didn't want to be tested in Fuinjutsu, but maybe he had forgotten. The examiner hummed in thought as he thought of someone who could give Naruto what he wanted. Kyumo shinobi were primarily skilled in kenjutsu, since a blade was sharper and more effective than a staff. A sword can cut while the staff doesn't. This statement would be true for a normal staff, and certainly not the one that Naruto had in his possession. I will be right back, the proctor said, and simply left without any explanation, leaving Naruto's team to wonder what happened. A few minutes later, the proctor returned with another shinobi by his side. He was a young, dark-skinned shinobi with short, spiky, white hair and dark eyes accentuated with lines curving upwards from the corners. He wore a dark outfit consisting of an overlong shirt with a hood, with red bandage hand guards, Kumobiku shin guards, and a black forehead protector. He carried a long sword on his back and had a lollipop on his mouth. Naruto? The shinobi asked in surprise. A long time no see, Naruto said, greeting the fellow shinobi. You know each other? The examiner asked, and both shinobi nodded. We both participated in the Chunin exams 3 years ago, Omoy said while Naruto nodded. I see, the proctor replied. Omoy is here to test you in Bojutsu. Since we have no foremost expert in this area, you will be sparring against Omoy's Kenjutsu, the examiner explained. If you aren't an expert, how can you evaluate my skills? Naruto asked, curious. I may not be an expert in weapons, but I know enough to understand when someone is skilled or not. Besides, Omoy is one of the swordsmen in Kumo. Judging from your battle with him, I can easily evaluate your skill level, the proctor explained, and Naruto nodded. The space around Naruto started swirling, and not much longer he had a staff on his right hand. Naruto twirled the staff in his hand, slamming it on the ground, creating a small shock wave from the strength behind it. Omo raised an eyebrow when he felt the earth vibrate slowly as Naruto slammed his staff on the ground. This is purely a weapons demonstration, no crippling or killing strikes, understood? The examiner asked, and both participants nodded. Omo took his sword and gripped it tightly with both hands. Naruto picked his staff, raising his right arm above his head and lowering his left. He hadn't used a staff since he had mastered the art, and that was nearly 8 years ago. Hajime, the proctor said, and both shinobi dashed forward, both weapons meeting with a loud clang. Small orange sparks were released as the sword's sharp edge grazed against Naruto's metal staff as both shinobi struggled. Being stronger, Naruto was able to push Omoy backwards. Naruto quickly withdrew his staff, spinning it behind his back and striking towards Omoy once again. Omoy parried Naruto's flurry of attacks as he could, but even him was starting to be overpowered. The amounts of attacks and the fluidity at which they came was unreal. Naruto wasn't as rusty as he thought himself to be. Omoy stumbled backwards but managed to regain his footing. He looked up just in time to see Naruto in the air. Omoy jumped to the side as Naruto slammed the tip of his staff on the ground, breaking the earth and embedding the staff on it. Using the staff as support, Naruto swirled around it and slammed his foot into Omoy's chest, sending him tumbling through the ground. Naruto dug the staff of the ground and waited for Omoy to stand. Both shinobi dashed forward and their weapons met once again. Kumoryu Mikizukujiri, Cloud Style, Crescent Moon Slice, Omoy said as he swung his blade in a single, large, crescent moon-shaped arc. Naruto tilted backwards and caught the trail of chakra left by the blade. Naruto jumped backwards and flexed his staff forward. The staff suddenly expanded, growing exponentially in size. Omoy never expected the range of Naruto's staff to suddenly increase this rapidly, and was unable to dodge. Omoy was struck in his right shoulder, hard enough to send him spinning through the air and landing rather hard on the ground. Omoy rose from the ground, breathing hard and clutching to his shoulder in pain. From his face, Naruto could easily tell that he was unprepared for that attack and that his shoulder was most likely dislodged. That is enough, the examiner quickly yelled when he saw the devastating strike Omoy had received. Maybe I got carried away. Naruto chuckled weakly while Hinata just shook her head. Report to the hospital, the proctor said towards Oma. I can fix him, Hinata said and approached Oma. Let me see, Hinata said, and her hands glowed green as she analyzed the extent of the damage. Your shoulder is dislocated. This might hurt, Hinata warned while Omoy just groaned. On 3, Hinata warned and Omoy nodded. 1, Hinata said and suddenly pushed his shoulder backwards. Omoy gave a yell of pain when he heard his bones snap to place. It was over just as it had begun. I thought you said on 3? Omoy gritted his teeth but sighed in relief as Hinata's hands glowed green once more and his pain diminished. Expecting pain only increases it, Hinata simply replied, smiling sweetly. Damn medics, Omoy groaned in thought. Sorry about that, Naruto said, but Omoy waved him off. Congratulations, Naruto-san. You took second place, the proctor said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow as his attention was shifted to the first name on the scoreboard. First place, Sarutobi Hiruzen. I didn't know the old man took the Jounin exams, Naruto said with surprise in his voice. These exams really are ancient. Sandaime-sama isn't that old, Naruto-kun. Hinata chided while Naruto just chuckled. Anything else before the team exercise? The proctor asked, and this time was met with complete silence. He waited a few seconds but no one changed their minds. The last exercise of the first stage is the team exercise, the proctor said, and led the team into the nearby forest. It was a small forest, but a very dense one. It was obviously prepared for this exam. Now, the proctor started gathering the attention. The purpose of this exercise is to retrieve a scroll which is located in a small wooden cabin deep within the woods. Along the way there were several traps. Deadly ones, I might add. The proctor warned, and everyone nodded. Once you have the scroll, you will make your way back here. As always, the quicker you do it, the more points you will get awarded. Understood? The proctor asked, and everyone nodded. Do all team members have to participate? Naruto asked, curious. Of course. It's a team exercise after all. The proctor replied, confused, while Naruto smirked. When you are ready, the proctor said, and watched as Naruto's team stood at the edge of the forest. This is what we will do, Naruto said, and gathered both Hinata and Sai. You will both stand guard here while I go get the scroll, Naruto said, and both members blinked at him. I'm sorry? Hinata asked, thinking she might have misheard him. You heard what the proctor said. All team members must participate, however he didn't specify which role, Naruto replied, while Hinata just shook her head. She already knew what he was going to do. Fine, Hinata replied, and Sai simply went with the flow. Go, the proctor yelled, and the three members dashed forward. As they arrived near the first set of trees, both Hinata and Sai stopped running and took cover behind them. Naruto kept running, his Sharingan taking every detail of the surrounding environment. His ears heard whizzing sounds, and he turned his head to the side. Dozens of kunais were flying towards him at high speeds. Naruto smiled and kept running forward. His eyes started glowing and his Kamui was activated. What the? The proctor asked in shock as he watched Naruto keep running and the kunais simply passed through him. Once the kunais were over, his Kamui was disabled and Naruto kept on running. It was a straightforward exercise whose point was obviously trap detection. Naruto lifted his head and saw the small wooden cabin just a few yards away. He smiled and kept on running until he heard a sizzling noise. He looked down and saw the path was riddled with explosive tags. Naruto chuckled and used his Kamui and kept going forward. Explosions rocked the grounds and large clouds of smoke rose into the sky. The proctor cringed when he saw Naruto being consumed by the explosions, but was again surprised when he saw him running out of smoke cloud, completely unharmed. Naruto's eyes caught a ceiling tag at the cabin's door. It was another trap with an explosive tag, but this one it needed to be disarmed, otherwise it would blow up the cabin, scroll included. Naruto smirked and simply right through the door using his Kamui. I'm done here. The proctor conceded and threw his board at the ground. He gave up on trying to understand Senju Naruto. Naruto saw the scroll on a small table and simply took it. He flashed towards Hinata and all three members rushed out of the forest. Time 42 seconds, the proctor said, shaking his head. He pointed towards the display and saw Naruto's team ranking first with the second nowhere near. The second best time was nearly 5 minutes. Are we done? Naruto asked, and the proctor nodded. Yes. Meet here at 8 for the announcement of which teams will proceed to the second stage, the proctor said, and watched the team leave. They had broken or achieved first place in every single category barring the obstacle course, but he didn't blame them. When he himself saw some green creature shouting something about flames of youth, he even considered retirement at 30 years old. Later that evening, everyone had gathered to find out the teams that would proceed. They met up with Lee, Tenten, and Shikamaru, who seemed to also be waiting for the results. How did it go? Hinata asked. Although clearly not as good as you, Tenten replied, pointing to the scoreboards. Lee managed to score enough points in the taijutsu and obstacle course to be able to proceed. You know Shika, he played his cards and ended up right in the middle of the competition, Tenten said, and Hinata chuckled. At least we all get to go to the second stage, Naruto said, and everyone nodded. Oh well. See you all tomorrow for the next exam. Amigakure, Pain's Tower. Are you sure this is wise? Konan asked towards the only person in the room. Her voice was neutral and perfectly calm, betraying none of her worrying thoughts. In the back of the room, concealed by the shadows, stood a person with a single visible eye. The person was a fair-skinned man with chin-length red hair, with his most noticeable trait being his single Rinnegan. He didn't look healthy, as he seemed to be severely malnourished, with his rib cage and bone structure openly visible. He had chakra receivers implanted into his back, one in each of his shoulder joints, smaller ones in his forearms, and 2 metal-like screw under his collarbones, near his shoulder joint. The person sat on some machine that appeared to be some type of mechanical walker. It's a dangerous game you are playing, Nagato, Konan warned, but Nagato seemed determined on his course of action. It needs to be done, Nagato simply said. Conan was about to reply when a familiar swirling sound came into the room. From the vortex, Tobi, or Fugaku, walked into the small rays of light coming through the cracks in the room. "What are you doing here?" Conan asked, her voice back to its neutral tone and her eyes narrowing in slight apprehension. Although she seemed mostly calm on the outside, she was prepared should Tobi try anything foolish. "Suit up," Tobi said, throwing Nagato something whitish in color. Nagato picked up what Tobi had thrown and his eyes widened when he realized what it was. "This is Dash," Nagato replied, but was interrupted by Tobi. "I need you at full strength for this." Chapter 55. Just My Luck. Why do these things always happen to us? Naruto wondered out loud. He released a long sigh as he looked at the dark sky. It was full moon and its light shone across the vast forest. The leaves rustled with the night's cold air and Naruto sighed again. He looked towards Hinata, who also seemed to be deep in thought, looking at Sai as if to solve a puzzle. Naruto shifted his eyes towards the last member of his team, one root shinobi by the name of Sai. Sai was the reason of Naruto's troubles as he was currently on his knees on the ground. His pupils were dilated and his face neutral. He seemed to be staring into nothingness. "What am I going to do with you?" Naruto asked rhetorically, nursing his temples and shaking his head. "Earlier that day, Naruto-kun," Hinata said in a low voice, trying to hide her blushing face. "Everyone is staring," she said, lowering her head and avoiding gazing upon the crowd. She hid her face between her long hair as she looked subtlety around. Naruto just chuckled and held her tightly by her thighs. Hinata was currently sitting on Naruto's shoulders as they made their way towards the second stage of the exams. The sight of two very strong and popular shinobi walking around a different village was enough to bring attention to them, but their current position only increased it. "They are just jealous, Hinata-chan," Naruto replied, tilting his head up to look at Hinata's red face and chuckled. Hinata glared at him, well, as much as she can glare in the end. "It's not funny." Hinata pouted, seeing that her fierce glare got her nowhere. "You know that I, unlike you, don't like being the center of attention, much less with foreign people," Hinata mumbled. "I don't like being the center of attention," Naruto replied. "Please," Hinata snorted playfully. "You and me both know that you enjoy the spotlight, maybe a little," Naruto said, and Hinata smiled but got thinking. Although, Hinata started in a suspicious voice, narrowing her eyes. "You have been unusually affectionate today. Not that I'm complaining, but what brought this on?" Hinata asked, curious. "Nothing in particular," Naruto replied, shrugging his shoulders. "Just a talk I had with Kurama earlier today." Flashback. Everything was quiet in the room. The sun was beginning to rise in the horizon and the darkness in the room started dissipating with the sun shining through the windows. Naruto stirred as the room became brighter and groggily opened his eyes. He shifted in the bed until his eyes landed on Hinata's sleeping form. Naruto smiled at her peaceful face and slowly turned so that he could observe her more comfortably. He brought his hand to her cheek and brushed her hair away. "She's so pretty," Naruto thought to himself, gently running his fingers over her rosy cheek. Hinata seemed to feel his touch and leaned in for closer contact. Naruto smiled at her actions even though she was still asleep. "Cherish every moment with her," Naruto heard and turned his attention to the end of the bed where Kurama was curled in a small ball, with all of his tails. "I already do that," Naruto replied, and Kurama opened a single eye. "But what makes you say that?" Naruto asked, curious. Kurama had never given him much advice or even mingled much in his relationship with Hinata. "Just a piece of advice," Kurama said, yawning and displaying his teeth. "You have no idea what it's like facing eternity alone," Kurama said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow at the bitterness in his voice. "You have 8 siblings," Naruto said, confused by the topic. "You know nothing, Naruto," Kurama snorted. "I know everything about your story," Naruto began, and Kurama's eye twitched at his naivety. "I know that Hagoromo created you and your siblings from the Jubi." Naruto would have kept talking if it wasn't from Kurama's roar. "Shush, keep it down," Naruto whispered as he looked towards Hinata, who remained sleeping. "How long ago do you think all of this happened?" Kurama asked. "A couple centuries?" Naruto wondered, and Kurama chuckled at his answer. "It has been almost 19,000 years since I was born," Kurama replied, and Naruto was surprised. There had been ninja for a while apparently. "Sure, it was fun when we were all together growing up. The first few centuries I was actually happy when we were all together. But then you came." Kurama retorted angrily, raising in the bed with all of his tails. You shinobi and your endless lust for power! Kurama barked, and Naruto was surprised by the amount of hate coming from his voice. You drove us apart, forced us to split so that we weren't caught and enslaved like we are now. You forced each one of us to take their own path and to survive in loneliness for fear of our own survival. You have no idea what's like living for millenniums all alone. Walking this earth without nothing to look for, always on watch for your people. You never knew how many times I thought about death knowing very well that I would never get it. Kurama sighed and lied back down. I don't know why that snake seeks it so vehemently. Eternity is nothing but a curse in the end. You will eventually tire just like I did, but I for one will never die or perish. I will linger and live on even after your kind disappears from this earth. Kurama said, and Naruto never thought about things like this. Well, you got me, Naruto said, grinning while Kurama just shook his head. I'm old Naruto, very old, Kurama began. As I told you, I am around 19,000 years old. I watched times of peace and prosperity, and times of war. I watched as kingdoms fell and new ones rose to take their place. I watched as man ventured himself across the ocean, deep into the mountains and high into the sky. But above all, I watched as humans began nurturing their energies and began using them. It took time for my father's teachings to spread across the globe. I watched as humanity lived peacefully with the help of chakra, but then they realized its full potential. The potential for war. Mankind was created with a hole in their hearts. A hole that no possession, power, or knowledge could fill. And in their infinite greed, man dreamed of expanding his dominion over the entire earth. That is how the first chakra wars began that led into the clan wars, finally culminating into what we know today. You said I had you. Kurama chuckled bitterly. You will perish to time while I will live on. I'll endure the fall of man and the rise of the next species. I will linger on in darkness and in doubt as nightfall in winter that comes without a star. I will dwell, bound to loneliness under the fading trees until all the world is changed and its long years of life are utterly spent. Maybe then, I can rest in peace. Kurama finished and Naruto was simply staring at him. You should focus on the present and, like you said, cherish every moment. Instead of sulking about the past and future, you should enjoy the present. No matter how short it may seem to you. Naruto replied, and Kurama snorted at his speech. And maybe I'll find a way to keep you company through the ages. Naruto grinned while Kurama just chuckled. I'll hold you to that, Kurama said before walking out and leaving behind a thoughtful Naruto. End flashback. What mess did I get myself into now? Naruto thought to himself as he, Hinata and Sai made their way towards the second stage of the Jounin exams. Naruto wondered what would be like living forever, watching as everyone else perished and he remained behind, untouched by time, immune to diseases. Being forced to adapt as the world changed around him. Choosing sides when Konoha was no longer standing. Naruto may be a lot of things, but he wasn't naive. He knew that the shinobi would come to an end eventually. Naruto could only wonder what would follow. Would the knowledge to form chakra simply fade away to give way to the singular energies? Would mankind simply forget about chakra and live on as regular civilians, leaving behind the shinobi way? Naruto had a lot to think about if he wanted to keep Kurama's promise. Although he knew one thing for certain. If he was going to fulfill his promise of keeping company to Kurama through the ages, then he would find a way to have Hinata by his side. Second stage location. Naruto's team arrived at the location of the second stage of the Jounin exams. He looked around and the place seemed a little deserted, too deserted for his own taste. Naruto noticed that his team was the only one there. He looked up to the sun to check the time and rechecked the paper he was given. They were certainly in the right spot. They were in a deserted plain with nothing but a mountain in front of them and an abyss on the other side. Naruto's curiosity got the best of him, and he went towards the abyss and looked down. They were a few hundred feet above the Reikage Tower. Welcome, Naruto heard and turned around to see some Chunin running towards them. You are exactly on time. If you follow me to the edge of the mountain, I will explain the next stage, the Chunin said, and Naruto, Hinata and Sai silently followed him to a small wooden shack at the bottom of the mountain. Naruto curiously looked up but couldn't see the edge of it. The cloud bank blocked his view of the top. Now the next stage is rather simple. This is what we call the Crystal Peak Mountain. On top of this mountain are 20 flags. Each team can only take one. Your objective is to go up or around the mountain and make your way to the Forbidden Forest on the other side. The Chunin explained, and everyone listened carefully. In order to pass this stage, you will need to collect at least 2 flags and find the tower hidden in the forest. You have a time limit of 5 days. Questions? The Chunin asked. You said we need 2 flags. Hinata said, and the Chunin nodded. We can take only one from the top, which means the other will have to be removed from other teams, correct? Hinata asked. Yes, the Chunin began. You can either climb to the top and immediately secure a flag for yourselves and take the other, or you can simply find your way around the mountain and take 2 flags from another team's. The choice is yours. The Chunin explained, and Hinata nodded. Engagement rules? Sai asked. Every team for themselves. The only requisite is that the whole team is alive when you reach the tower, with 2 flags, of course. The Chunin said, and Sai gave him his creepy smile. All right, the Chunin said, clearing his throat. Anything else? He asked, but all of them shook their heads. Very well. Each team was given a random spot on the bottom of the mountain. The test will begin momentarily, the Chunin said, and stepped aside. What should we do? Hinata asked towards his teammates. This is the highest mountain in the world, with an altitude of around 10,000 meters, 32,000 feet. To normal civilians, it would take weeks of training and more weeks to actually reach the top. Naruto mused. Even if we are shinobi, climbing the mountain without making sure everyone knows the dangers would be foolish. Naruto explained. But if we climb to the top, we can secure ourselves a flag, Sai said, taking into account that no one has reached it before. Hinata added, and Naruto nodded. I guess we will make a run to the top. The edges of the mountain are extremely slippery, so use caution with your chakra. The temperature will drop severely as we go up. Everyone knows the thermal coat jutsu, right? Naruto asked, and got nods from both Hinata and Sai. 1. As we go up, oxygen concentration will start to decrease, so coat your lungs with chakra to compensate, and finally be very careful for random bursts of wind that can detach you from the mountain and send you to your deaths. Everyone understand? Naruto asked, and got nods once again. Good. Let's go then, Naruto said as his team positioned themselves at the bottom of the mountain, waiting for the go signal from the Chunin. Hajime. The Chunin yelled as a loud bell echoed through the air. Naruto and his team immediately jumped onto the mountain side, channeling chakra to their feet and sticking to it. They shot upwards at high speeds, intending to secure a flag to themselves. Meanwhile, Konoha Tsunade sighed as she took a sip from her sake. She shook her shoulders, trying to get rid of her stiffness as she picked up another report. She started reading when her eyes widened. Autopsy report performed by Takashi Taro, assistant, Rin Takara. Date, June 13th of the 93 Shinobi Year. Time, 4:30 p.m. Summary report. Name, Hyuga Hayashi. Coroner's case, 2014-542. Date of birth, January 8th. Age, 44. Gender, male. Bloodline, Byakugan. Evidence of treatment, N/A. External examination. The autopsy is begun at 4:30 p.m. on June 13th of the 93 Shinobi Year. The subject is wearing gray pants and shirt consistent with the traditional garb of a Konoha prisoner. The clothes are on good conditions given that the subject incarceration was recent. The body is that of a developed 44-year-old man, measuring 176 centimeters, 70 inches, and weighing 66 kilograms, 145 pounds. The body shows scar tissue and many other wounds that never properly healed, which is consistent with the subject's medical file. Medically amputated right arm. Internal examination, skeletal system. The subject displayed numerous broken bones all over the body with particular focus on arms, legs and ribs. The ribs 7 to 12 show multiple fractures. Cardiovascular system. The heart weighs 300 grams and possesses normal size and configuration. Upon further analysis, a small blockage was found in the coronary arteries. This prevented proper blood flow onto the heart, preventing the heart muscle from receiving oxygenated blood. Opinion. Normally a block of this size should not be deadly for the body of a professional shinobi. I infer that the lack of proper nutrition and general living conditions of the prisoner may have led to furthering this problem. Cause of death, acute myocardial infarction state, body destroyed according to protocol. Unbelievable, Tsunade muttered, reading the report 3 times to make sure she missed nothing. Shinobi with active chakra networks don't get sick unless it's a really deadly disease. It's one of the perks of being shinobi. Tsunade mused in thought. And even though he was a clan head with very few missions, he should still be in shape. She couldn't grasp how could have this occurred. She could only do one thing. She took a deep breath and shouted across the Hokage tower. Shizune, Back with Naruto, 2 hours had passed since Naruto's team ventured themselves into the high mountain. Their climb had been rather dull since they didn't come across any other team. The starting points at the foot of the mountain were random and separate for each team, so it wasn't completely out of the ordinary. They had just passed the halfway mark and they could already feel the shortage of breath due to the lack of oxygen, not to mention the freezing temperatures didn't exactly help. In the end, they were shinobi, the strongest warriors available in the world. Even to a decently trained shinobi, these conditions were nothing but bothersome. While they would delay them, they surely wouldn't hinder them. Naruto had begun using his thermal coat to keep his body temperature at acceptable levels. He scanned his surroundings and saw nothing but snow all around them. He turned towards Sai, who also had his thermal coat on. His attention shifted towards Hinata, who was running in the middle of the group with her Byakugan activated. That was when Naruto felt it. "Hinata-chan!" Naruto called, but Hinata didn't turn her head. She didn't need it with her Byakugan on, she just gave a small nod of acknowledgement. "I can see that you don't have your thermal coat. Aren't you cold?" Naruto asked, curious. "Not really. It's feel nice actually," Hinata replied, and Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Really?" Naruto thought curiously. "Nearly negative 30 degrees and she says it's nice," Naruto thought, shaking his head in amusement. Naruto, Hinata and Sai immediately halted their progress when they heard a loud explosion ring through the air. They tried to pinpoint the location of the sound and shifted their attention towards the left, which they could see a large column of smoke rising. "Looks like we are not alone in this," Hinata said as she stretched her Byakugan range towards the smoke. "One team down," Hinata said as she watched one team racing down the mountains with an avalanche on their trail. It was quite amusing actually. She knew that they wouldn't die with a simple avalanche, but watching them stumble down the mountain is far too amusing to pass. "Do you have eyes on Shika's team?" Naruto asked, and Hinata refocused her Byakugan, increasing her range and scanning the whole mountain for their friends. "They are climbing the mountain as well," Hinata replied. "They are on the other side and just past the 4-mile mark. We are the closest team to the peak," Hinata said and chuckled, getting a curious look from Naruto. "Just our luck, we got the steepest path on this mountain," Hinata said, and Naruto chuckled as well. Sai remained there, feeling almost like a third wheel, with the exception he felt nothing of sorts. Couple hours later. "Welcome to the top of Crystal Peak." Some Kumo shinobi greeted Naruto's team as they arrived at the top. "Looks like we are the first to arrive," Naruto said, and the shinobi nodded. "Man, what a view," Naruto said, looking around and could see nothing but pure white around. The mountain has so high that they stood above the cloud bank. It looked like a blanket of pure white with the sun shining in the blue sky. "I almost feel tempted to jump on the clouds," Naruto laughed, and Hinata just shook her head. "I wouldn't remount that. It's a long way down." The Kumo shinobi smirked. "Here is your flag," the shinobi said, handing a small black flag to Naruto. "Good luck on the rest of the stage," the shinobi said, and everyone nodded. "At least it will be faster on the way down," Hinata said as she and her team jumped and started running downwards towards the forest. "I have a suggestion," Sai said, breaking their conversation and getting their attention. "Choji Giga, Super Beast Scroll," Sai said, and drawing something in his scroll. With a loud screech, 3 black and white birds shot from the scroll. They flapped their wings, creating a small gust of wind, and rose into the air. "It will be faster," Sai said, jumping on top of one bird while he waited for Naruto and Hinata to join. "Sounds good," Naruto said, jumping on top of one while Hinata took the last one. With a loud screech, the birds plummeted downwards in blinding speeds. "How come you didn't offer this when we were climbing?" Naruto asked, placing a hand in front of his eyes to shield the wind. "Didn't remember," Sai simply said, and Naruto's sweat dropped and focused on controlling the bird. The Forbidden Forest. "So this is the famous Forbidden Forest of Kumo," Naruto said as he and his team arrived at the entrance of the forest. "I'm impressed," Naruto said, crossing his arms as he scanned the forest in front of him. He did admit that the forest did have a certain ominous feeling to it. The forest itself seemed shrouded in darkness, and a cold breeze swept by. Naruto's team ventured themselves into the forest and watched in fascination as the entrance seemed to close itself behind them, as if trapping them in the forest forever. "Genjutsu," Hinata whispered loud enough to her team to hear. They both nodded in agreement, feeling the subtle change in their chakra networks. "An enemy team?" Sai asked, placing a hand on the hilt of his tanto. He scanned his surroundings very carefully, trying to ascertain any danger. No, Hinata replied with her Byakugan activated. It seems it's been here for a while. Hinata explained. Probably one of many traps placed here just for this stage. Naruto offered, and both agreed as they moved forward. The forest seemed taken from a horror movie. The forest was thick with trees so high that it dwarfed them. Light barely seemed to penetrate the cloak of leaves at the top. On the ground some type of black flowers, while every other dead, their leaves withering away. Impassable terrain blocked with rocks and thorns that seemed a natural occurrence. A sound rang through the forest, a small owl hooting. This is really one creepy place. Naruto shivered. Scared? Hinata teased. Oh sure, Naruto replied sarcastically. This coming from the one who launched a full water dragon inside our bedroom to kill a spider, Naruto said deadpan while Hinata huffed. They are mean little buggers. Besides, it worked, didn't it? Hinata asked while Naruto just shook his head. Suddenly Naruto turned and flung a kunai to his left. The kunai sailed through the air at blinding speeds. One could almost hear the whistle. Thump! Naruto looked around and noticed his target. A beast, eight-eyed, eight-legged, jet black, hairy. A gigantic black spider, with legs measuring up to 10 feet, poisonous green liquid dripping from its fangs, and a kunai embedded deeply in its skull, between its multiple black, pupilless eyes. Scared? Naruto teased while Hinata just smiled and shook her head in defeat. What did I tell you? Naruto asked, turning back to Hinata and pointing towards the animal. This place is creepy, he said, and Hinata just shook her head. Can you locate the tower? Sai asked, and Hinata nodded, sitting down and crossing her legs. Her chakra flared and the veins of her face bulged out. She focused and extended her Byakugan range. She saw past the tree, past the blockade of thorns and rock, past the river that split the forest, and reached the outer edge of the forest. There are hundreds of those things here, Hinata said in a gasp. She watched with her Byakugan as a pack of nearly 10 of those spiders dismembered other animals. And just as many snakes of equal size. Great, Naruto replied in a sarcastic voice. You could burn it down, Kurama offered while Naruto chucked at his opinion. I could, but I doubt that the Raikage would be pleased, Naruto replied. Found it, Hinata said, breaking Naruto from his conversation. The tower is about 10 miles southeast. I also spotted a couple of teams around, setting up traps and ambushes. 2 teams have flags on them, Hinata explained. Which team with flag is closer to the tower? Naruto asked, and Hinata extended her arm, pointing in some direction. Lead on, Naruto said, and Hinata jumped forwards. Not even half an hour later, Hinata motioned and everyone halted their progress. Naruto activated his Sharingan and could see 3 chakra signatures half-mile away. What's the plan? Sai asked as he observed the enemy Kumo team from the trees. Spring the trap. Naruto smirked and brought his hands in AT shape. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu. 3 clones appeared next to the original Naruto. 2 of them were enveloped in smoke to reveal a Sai and a Hinata. Without a word being said, the clone team jumped forward as if not noticing the traps. Enemy shinobi, one of the Kumo shinobi yelled, and his team sprang into action. Shit, it's the team from Konoha! The Kumo shinobi yelled as they took out kunais and flung them. Hinata reared her right arm and pushed it forward, releasing a pressurized ball of wind that simply swept the kunais away. Right-on, Sandaburito, Thunderbolt! The hands of one of the Kumo shinobi started sparkling as they were enveloped in a blue aura. As he shouted the name, dozens of sparks were unleashed upon Naruto and his team. Naruto picked up his fan and released a gust of wind, dispelling the Kumo's lightning attack. Damn, the Kumo shinobi muttered. The Kumo team picked their swords and rushed forward to meet Naruto, Hinata, and Sai head-on. As they closed their distance, and the clash seemed unavoidable, Naruto smirked, and the clones dispelled, leaving behind a cloud of white smoke. Where are they? One member asked to another. I don't dash. The shinobi didn't manage to reply as he fell to the ground with a thump sound. What hap dash? His other teammate also fell to the ground, and the last member was left all alone against 3 shinobi of Konoha. He didn't get much time to think as he felt a small pinch in the back of his neck and everything went black. Once the smoke had cleared the original Naruto, Hinata and Sai jumped into the clearing. Nice job, Naruto said, and Hinata thanked him, pocketing her favorite Senbon. There were 3 missing Senbon from her stash. Those 3 were presently attached to the neck of the Kumo shinobi, 1 Senbon for each. Here is the flag. Naruto said, picking up the flag, making their count 2. Hinata-chan finds us a good place to rest, and we will continue on tomorrow, Naruto said, and Hinata nodded, using her Byakugan to scan the nearby area. Clang! Naruto heard a small metal noise and turned just in time to see Sai unsheath his tanto. He wondered what he was doing with his sword out, and his eyes widened when Sai approached the Kumo team and raised his arm. Smack! It was just a blur to Sai's eyes. In a moment he was about to end the Kumo team, and in the other his hand was in a vice grip at the hands of Naruto. "What do you think you are doing?" Naruto asked, narrowing his eyes at his teammate. "Finishing the enemy team," Sai simply replied, his hands still gripping his tanto. "Why do you want to kill them?" Naruto asked. "They are unconscious and we have their flag. Kumo is not allied with Konoha. The exams gives free reign upon the battles and thus no backslash. They are enemy shinobi who one day may pose a threat to Konoha," Sai simply replied, looking intently in Naruto's eyes. "This is just a competition, there is no need for blood." "Lower your weapon," Naruto said. "I shall make it clean," Sai countered, and Naruto resisted the urge to facepalm himself. "There is no need for deaths," Naruto said in a serious tone, but Sai seemed unrelenting. "It is best to kill the weed before it grows," Sai said. "I'm the team captain. Lower your weapon, that is an order," Naruto ordered, and Sai nodded. "Yes, sir," Sai said, slowly lowering his arm and sheathing the tanto, his face emotionless, giving nothing away. Naruto released the grip on his arm and went to join Hinata. "Damn root shinobi and their emotional conditioning," Naruto thought as he released a long sigh and turned to his teammate. "Come, Sai. Let us make camp and rest for the night," Naruto said. Middle of the night came quickly and darkness enveloped the forest. The trees already made the forest dark during the day, but at night, there was nothing but pitch-black darkness. Sai looked up at the ceiling of trees to see a few rays of moonlight break the cover and provide some much-needed vision. Sai shifted his attention to his surroundings. At the bottom of the tree both Naruto and Hinata laid asleep while Sai kept guard. He looked towards the edge of the small clearing and spotted the ninja wire glistening under the moon. A few feet away, explosive tags attached with wire as well. Sai got up and silently opened his pack. From it, he retrieved a single scroll which contained the information of his mission, given to him personally by Danzo. He slowly unwrapped the scroll to get the mission description, but was surprised by the lack of it. When he read what the mission entailed, his eyes widened and his mouth opened in shock, but no sound came out. Dispose of Senju Naruto and Senju Hinata. Flashback, the place looked like a pit. Sai looked around to see multiple wooden bridges, one above another. Sai walked to the edge and looked down only to find darkness at the bottom. Suddenly he heard footsteps and noticed Shimura Danzo approaching him, flanked by 2 shinobi, one on each side. Sai immediately got onto his knees. "Danzo-sama," Sai said, bowing his head in greeting of his master. "Welcome, Sai," Danzo said, and Sai slowly raised his head. It was customary to never meet the eyes of their master unless addressed first. "I have a very important mission for you," Danzo replied, and Sai nodded. His face, although seemingly emotionless and natural, portrayed determination and attention. "Tomorrow you will be called to Hokage's office where you will receive your mission, which will last nearly 1 month. You will be the 3rd member of one of Konoha's teams that Lady Tsunade will be sending to the Jounin exams in Kumo. Understand so far?" Danzo asked, and Sai nodded. "The exam will have the same structure as the Chunin exams. The first stage will be some sort of basic skills evaluation, the second stage will be a survival exercise, and the last stage will be the tournament," Danzo explained and handed Sai a single scroll. "Your mission is specified on that scroll, which you are only to open during the second stage of the exams, preferably when you are alone." "Understood?" Danzo asked. "It shall be done, Danzo-sama," Sai replied, pocketing the scroll. "I'm sure I don't need to explain the importance of every mission I give, correct?" Danzo asked, taking a deep breath and looking firmly at Sai. "In root you have no name. You have no feelings. You have no past. You have no future, there is only the mission," Sai recited, and Danzo nodded at his apprentice. "You are dismissed," Danzo ordered, and Sai bowed his head once again before walking away and disappearing in the darkness of the tunnels. "Permission to speak freely?" Danzo shifted his attention towards his right. The shinobi to his right wore a short, black jacket with red straps on the shoulders. He also wore a red short kimono under the jacket with a black sash, a pair of black gloves, dark-colored pants, And regular shinobi sandals. Granted, Fu. Danzo replied and focused on what the shinobi had to say. Do you think Sai will be able to accomplish the mission? Fu asked while Danzo hummed. Naruto has grown strong, far too strong to be controlled. That is the problem with strong shinobi and the reason why most defect from their villages. Young Naruto may not believe it, but power and fear are the absolutes of this world. And when some shinobi reach power beyond their leaders, then it gets very complicated. What do you think Naruto would do should Lady Tsunade ever issue an order that would oppose his beliefs? Do you think he would abide by her orders if they conflicted with his own gains? Danzo asked, but Fu remained silent. Shinobi are nothing but weapons, and I do not wish for one that will not obey me. Danzo explained. And about Lady Hinata? The shinobi to Danzo left asked. He was a fairly tall and lean-built man. He had fair skin and short spiked dull black hair. His glasses were built into the mask, obscuring his eyes, and he was also heavily clothed. He wore a short black jacket with red straps over the shoulders, and a high-collared, all-black outfit with a red sash around his waist and what appeared to be an apron over his pants. Yes, Torian, Senju Hinata, formerly known as Hyuga Hinata, disowned daughter of the former clan head, Hyuga Hayashi. Danzo chuckled slowly. Naruto did a remarkable job with her. She may seem shy, serene, kind and very fragile, but she's just as much of a princess as I am. Danzo replied in a thoughtful manner. While she doesn't possess the raw power and strength that Naruto does, she is just as deadly. You saw what she did to Hayashi, her own father, and one of Konoha's strongest. In fact, in some points, I do believe the girl to be more dangerous than the boy himself. Naruto is loud and brash, Senju attributes, and in the end I should be glad that he didn't inherit the Uchiha's ones. The girl, on the other hand, Danzo mused. She is smart, objective and decisive. Necessary traits for medics after all. Danzo explained. She wouldn't just jump into war like him. If I know her as well as I think I do, she would stick to the shadows and wait for the best moment to strike, like a true shinobi. Her beauty alone would get her anywhere she wished, and with her talents and my training, she would be a Hokage to remember. Danzo said wishfully. I do not fear the one who jumps into the battle without thought. I fear those who hide in the shadows, the man behind the man behind the man. And she just strikes me as a person who would be the mastermind, hiding in the shadows and working with peons. But alas, she shares the same philosophy of her husband. Danzo finished and sighed in defeat. She would have been a great en route. If both of them are all that, what makes you certain that Sai will accomplish the mission? Fu asked, and Danzo chuckled darkly. Even a Kage falls to a kunai. End flashback. I have my orders. Sai thought as he saw the scroll in front of him disintegrate into speckles of dirt. He looked towards Naruto and Hinata, who were sleeping near the tree. And with the stealth training he had, he put his plan into motion. He slowly and quietly as the night started unpacking the necessary items for his mission. He took out and unsheathed his tanto, laying it on the ground. From his pack he took a single vial which had some skull etched on the label, some kind of poison. And finally, a single strand of some kind of wire, transparent and almost invisible to the naked eye. The girl would die from the poison. Even if she was a first-class medic on par or better than Tsunade herself, she would die in her sleep. Sai picked the wire and poison, and jumped into the tree, standing right above her. He took out the wire and held it right above her mouth. Sai took the poison and dropped a single drop in the wire. Sai watched in anticipation as the purple drop slowly made its way down the wire. Once it reached it simply fell from the wire and directly into the lips of Senju Hinata. Hinata seemed to have felt something on her mouth as she licked her lips and rolled to the side, like nothing had ever happened. Sai rolled the wire up and took out his tanto. Poison wouldn't work on Naruto due to him being a Jinchuriki. In fact, short of taking out his head and piercing his heart, killing a Jinchuriki is no easy task. But this one was asleep. Sai pointed his tanto at his target and leapt from the tree. The tanto glistened under the moonlight as Sai pointed it at Naruto. The tanto pierced through Naruto's ribcage and embedded itself deeply into his chest, severing the carotid artery. Naruto's eyes shot open and his mouth opened, but no sound came out as he died instantly. Sai got up and left his sword on Naruto's chest as he approached Hinata. He brought a single finger to her neck to search for a pulse. He found none. He let out a breath that he didn't know he was holding as he made his way to his backpack. He took out a single scroll and drew a bird on it. Go to Danzo-sama. Sai said, and bird shot into the sky with two simple words. Sai turned around to collect his things and disappear from the forest. This is a new low even from Danzo. Sai heard and froze on the spot. He turned towards the origin of the sound and saw nothing but a pair of glowing red eyes with three black tomos spinning. Sai quickly turned to the bodies of Naruto and Hinata only for them to shimmer out of existence. Genjutsu, Sai whispered to himself. Since when? Sai asked as he gripped his tanto that somehow was still in his back. The owner of Sharingan eyes walked out of the shadows and into the moonlight. Naruto and Hinata stepped into the clearing, completely unharmed but with annoyed expression on their faces. How long, you ask? Naruto asked, smirking slightly. My dear friend. Hinata smiled. You have been under our genjutsu before we left the Hokage Tower in Konoha. Hinata said, and Sai was shocked. Tsunade-sama warned us about you and I didn't wish to take any chances. Hinata explained. Naruto's eyes glowed and Sai gulped, feeling lightheaded. Sai dropped his tanto and fell to the ground on his knees. His pupils were dilated and he seemed to stare into the nothing. Just my luck. Why do these things always happen to us? Naruto wondered out loud. He released a long sigh as he looked at the dark sky. It was full moon and its light shone across the vast forest. The leaves rustled with the night's cold air and Naruto sighed again. He looked towards Hinata, who also seemed to be deep in thought, looking at Sai as if to solve a puzzle. What am I going to do with you? Naruto asked rhetorically, nursing his temples and shaking his head. We still need him alive to complete this stage, Hinata said, warning Naruto not to take rash actions. I'll keep him under my control and make him drop the exams when we reach the tower, Naruto said, and Hinata nodded. What about Danzo? Naruto asked. I suggest we let things run its course until we can come up with something, Hinata suggested, and Naruto nodded. Sai, can you run? Naruto asked, and Sai just nodded. Good. Let's hurry back to the tower then, Naruto said, and all three of them left the clearing. At the tower, Naruto, Hinata and Sai arrived at the tower 2 hours later. Sai's conscious mind was being kept locked within a genjutsu, and now he was nothing more than a puppet, waiting for his orders. Welcome to the hidden tower. A shinobi at the door greeted Naruto's team. Do you have the flags? He asked, and Naruto handed him his 2 black flags. Very well. You may proceed inside and wait for this task to end. There are rooms available for you to rest, the shinobi explained, and everyone nodded. I wish to drop the competition, Sai suddenly said, and the shinobi stumbled in surprise. What? Are you sure? He asked. Yes, Sai simply replied. Fine, I guess. Senju Naruto and Senju Hinata will proceed to the 3rd task. Good luck, the shinobi said, and watched as the team disappeared inside. Once Naruto, Hinata and Sai found their room, Sai disappeared into Naruto's dimension where he would stay for the next month. Next day, Root Headquarters Danzo was working in his office when he was interrupted by a loud screech. He looked up to see a black and white bird flying towards him. Danzo took out a simple scroll and watched as the bird crashed into it and formed words. Mission accomplished. I never doubted him for a moment. Danzo smiled to himself. Fu Torian, Danzo said, hitting his cane on the ground. In front of him dropped his most loyal followers. Being Operation Phoenix, Danzo said, and both shinobi nodded, disappearing from view. Soon, Danzo chuckled darkly. Konoha will burn and better one will rise from the ashes.